pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee Cabrera. At this time, I would like to remind the board of our norms that are right in front of us. At this time, I'd also like to report out from closed session. The administration requests taking action on the recommendations for readmissions for the following students. Number 18-52, number 18-19-52 through number 18-19-53. Entertain a motion. I have a motion by Trustee Ocampo. I have a second by Trustee Rocha. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Ana Aguillon.
I'd like to report out that on a motion by Trustee Cabrera and a second by Trustee Rubio, the board formally approved the settlement of Rains Matter, case number 17CV001523 by a vote of 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Next, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Blanca Baltasar Sabah.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to report out that the board approved the settlement agreement with a vote of 6-0, one trustee absent, for the resolution of OAH case numbers 2019030064 and 2019040384 for educational support. I'd also like to report out that in the matter of the placement of a classified employee on the 39-month reemployment list, resolution number 19-67, on a motion by Trustee Ocampo, a second by Trustee Rocha, and a vote of 7-0, it was approved. Similarly, resolution number 19-83, on a motion by Sazi Jones, second by Trustee Rocha, and a vote 7-0 was also approved. Similarly, for resolution number 19-68, on a motion by Trustee Ocampo and a second by Trustee Rocha, on a vote 7-0, it also passed.
Thank you so much.
I have two more. In the matter of the placement of a classified layoff/reduction of classified services, the board approved the resolution number 19-85 on a motion by Trustee Ocampo, a second by Trustee Rubio, on a vote to 7-0. Similarly, for resolution 19-84 on a motion by Trustee Rocha and a second by Trustee Ocampo, on a vote 7-0, the resolution was approved. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Blanca Baltasar. At this time, I want to go back to all trustees and ask for the adoption of the agenda. Do I entertain a motion? Trustee Cabrera, do I have a second? Trustee Rubio, all those in favor? Motion carries. I thought I seen your hand up, sorry.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's what.
At this time, I'd like to turn it back to Dr. Blanca Baltasar Sabah.
Thank you, President Padilla-Salzberg. So in closed session, on a motion by Trustee Ocampo and a second by Trustee Zazie Jones and a vote of 7-0, the board has appointed Kimberly Chamberlain as Assistant Principal at Hardin Middle School. The board also, on a vote, a motion from Trustee Cabrera and a second from Zazie Jones and a vote of 7-0, appointed Sandra Gutierrez-Eaton as an Assistant Principal at Washington Middle School. On a motion by Trustee Ocampo and a second by Trustee Rocha and a vote of 7-0, the board appointed Leland Hansen as an Assistant Principal at Washington Middle School as well. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Now I'm turning it to Mr. Alberto Verduzco.
Get this right. Yes, so thank you, Madam President. So at this time, I'd like to go over the process for acknowledging our, pardon me? Yes, right.
So at this time, I would like to invite the board to come and have a seat in the front.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. So before we get started, I'd just like to go over the logistics. Today is a very important day because we are acknowledging our classified and certificated employees of the year. So what I would like to do is go over the process first, and then we'll begin. So I will call up the principal, administrator, or manager, and group employee leader to present the resolution. Then they will invite the nominee and family members forward, introduce the nominee, highlight the nominee's service history, share 1 to 2 special attributes for the nominee from the letters of support of nomination. And also please keep your comments to no more than 1 to 2 minutes each, so that we can move quickly and efficiently. Finally, present the nominee with the board resolution, and then you're going to we'll take a picture. Mr. Cabrera will take a picture of the nominees and the person that introduces the nominee, and then we'll have the nominees go and shake our board members' hands in the front. Okay? Thank you so much. So without further ado, I would like to start with the first administrator. I'd like to call Dr. Blanca Baltasar and Ms. Lucy Vega.
So unfortunately, our employee was unable to make it today, Arthur Caldwell, and we are so very much appreciative of all of the work that he does in the IT department. And so on his behalf, we will accept his resolution and we'll make sure we get it to him. Thank you. So let's give Arthur a round of applause.
Thank you. The next person I'd like to call up is Mr. Ernesto Garcia, principal of Alisal High School. Excuse me, Mr. Contreras of Alisal High School with a wonderful tie. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, members of the board and district leadership and all staff and other members that are here present today. We are very fortunate to have 3 nominees from our site. I'd like to start off by inviting Miss Patty Lara to please come forward. Miss Patty Lara was nominated and won for the Salinas Union High School District Classified Employee of the Year in the Office and Technical Classification. Miss Patty is an alumni of Alisal High School, and she has been working at Alisal High School for over 15 years now. She is the main greeter at our site, and there's so many different hats that Miss Patty wears on campus. She, from answering the phones to assisting in attendance when we're short, to when our nurse is out, Miss Patty helps us keep everything running smoothly. I've been working with Miss Patty as long as I've been at Alisal now. This is my 15th year, so I think we got there the same year, and so it's been amazing. I work with her as a teacher, and as a young administrator, she really helped me learn the ropes, and she's helped us out so much. And I've always said that as I've seen in the 3 districts that I've worked at, a lot of the times admin, we come and go, but our classified employees are the ones that hold it down, and they know all the procedures. And I am so thankful for Miss Patty and all that she does, and she's amazing. She's a great mentor for students, and she's always willing to support and always goes above and beyond. So Miss Patty Lara, thank you so much for all that you do.
I'm her family.
No, we are.
We have
Yep, I have to shake hands.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I get a hug from you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, we are also very fortunate to have Mr. Daniel Harmon, our campus security officer, being nominated under security. He is not present this evening, so we'll be accepting on his behalf. Mr. Harmon, unfortunately, is leaving us. He's moving on. He just became a new dad, and he's amazing, all that he's done at our campus. He coaches at Alvarez High School. He coaches football, so he's very involved in the community. But we wish him well, and we'll accept it on his behalf. And now I'd like to invite Mrs. Amber Dodd to please come up.
Actually, may I finish one more? My apologies. Thank you. You're totally fine. You're totally fine. No worries. No worries. May I call? I'd like to have Ms. Libby Duthman come up, please, principal of Salinas High School, to introduce her nominee, classified employee of the year.
So our nominee is Lorraine Sullivan, and Lorraine, why don't you come on? So Lorraine started at Salinas High in 1990, and she started in the registrar's office as a clerk, and then she's been in the library as a library technician for quite a while. And she really loves cataloging books, so this is the right spot for her. She enjoys working with students, especially our student aides, who keep the books shelved in the library tidy and organized. And if you've been to Salinas High Library, it is very tidy, no doubt about it. She is a longtime CSEA rep at Salinas High School, and I rely on her a lot as the principal. She really does a great job of coming with any things that might be going on, any concerns, which really help establish a great overall positive culture at Salinas High School. She's a dedicated cowboy and an important part of Salinas High. She actually shied away from getting this award in the past. We finally talked her into it, and now we get to give her the recognition that she so much deserves. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, she does. She does. Thank you very much. We'll do the whole line.
Thank you very much. And I'd also like to say that Patty Lara will be representing the district at the MCOE level as Employee of the Year. So let's give her another word. Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Contreras to come back up, and Mr. Steve McDougall to come up, please, to present your nominee.
Thank you. Sorry about that mix-up earlier today. So now, without further ado, I'd like to invite Mrs. Amber Dodd to please come. Mrs. Amber Dodd is a nominee for LaSalle High School's Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Amber Dodd has been at LaSalle for several years, and she's been awesome since she first came on board at LaSalle. She started off as a 9th grade English teacher, and she is currently a 10th grade English teacher. And there's a lot that she does on campus. She's one of our team leads for PBIS. Our PBIS team is rocking. One of the exemplary PBIS teams on like in our district and in the county. She's also our tech lead on campus, and she runs so many workshops to review everything from various types of tech tools, Google Classroom, Gradebook Synergy, Constant Synergy upgrades, etc. Troubleshooting Student View, and so much that she does. runs EdTech Monthly, presents at our staff meetings on all the things that are coming up and constantly keeping us up to date. And she really infuses technology in the classroom with our students. She really maximizes the whole one-to-one tools that our students have. And I told Mrs. Dodd when she first came on board that I couldn't wait till, she was someday my son's teacher, and he'll be a freshman next year, but she's a sophomore teacher, so hopefully in 2 years he'll be in our classroom because she's amazing, she's truly awesome. And we are so happy that she's with us, and we're more than happy to have nominated her and for her to be receiving this. So thank you so much for all that you do.
I know. Thank you. Do you want family?
Family, please. Family, come forward. Thank you, and congratulations.
Nice colors. So both.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations. Mr. Matt Fleming, Principal of Everett Alvarez High School.
Thank you, Mr. Rubio. So, our nominee is Ms. Julie Hoflin. She can come on up, please. And, so, we needed a French teacher in the worst way. We were really having trouble filling that, and we found a real gem. And she has just really come in. Hitting the ground running is an understatement. She has done some amazing things in her class. You go into her classroom, it went from a class where it was sub after sub after sub, and now it's like this warm, but they come in, it's right to work, right to business. The transitions are just smooth, and to just, to keep moving, and the kids love the class. And on top of that, she's done this amazing pen pal program with France, and then she ended up bringing this year 30 students from France, or almost 30 students from France and their teachers to visit us, and then she was able to do this amazing fundraising campaign and help the students learn how to fundraise. And they got to go to France, and they spent our spring break in the week after. I was worried about them. I had to call because there were riots and there was a fire. You might have heard of the little church. And but she was all in control of things. It was just great. So she's an amazing part of our staff. She's our teacher of the year this year.
You said right to work, that was not a Freudian slip,
Thank you, and congratulations.
That's right, always.
Thank you, and congratulations. Dr. Mary White from North Salinas High School, Principal of North Salinas High School. Mark, Mr. Collier? Barbara, excuse me, Miss Barbara Emmanuel Lawrence? Sure. We're going to move to the next one and we'll come right back to this one, okay? So, Mr. Francisco Huerta, principal of El Salado Middle School.
Good evening. Our nominee is Mr. Christopher Calizo. Unfortunately, he cannot make it tonight, but we're very lucky to have Mr. Calizo. Thank you. Very hardworking, very committed. Initially started teaching science, and now he's teaching AVID. And he's also one of our coaches, so very hardworking individual, and we're very proud to have him at our side. So again, once again, thank you very much, Mr. Calizo. And on behalf of Mr. Calizo, we'll accept the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huerta.
All right.
Yes, Ms. Kimberly McCullough, principal of Harding Middle School.
So good evening. So I would like to introduce Hardin Middle School's Teacher of the Year, which is Miss Jennifer Garcia, if she could come on up. Miss Jennifer Garcia has been teaching social studies and AVID at Hardin Middle School. She's been at Hardin for the past 23 years. Wow. She started off as a sub there, so it's been almost 24, so almost since Hardin Middle School opened. When I think of Miss Garcia, there's a quote that comes to my mind, and that quote is that students rise to the level of our expectations. And when you go in Miss Garcia's classroom, it is just amazing. It's the one I want to go in and just like sit there all day, because she has the students social studies or AVID, they're working in groups, they're discussing, she uses higher order thinking questions, and you see every student in her class engaged, on task. She never has any behavior issues because they're learning and they're learning. And it's just an amazing, amazing place to be in and to see the students learning and so engaged. As an AVID teacher, you know, those of you that have taught AVID, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of fundraising. You're going to provide all these amazing educational experiences for your students to go to universities and college and to learn about how to be that student there. And not only does she does the AVID experience in her AVID class, but she takes it into all her social studies classes. So it was without a doubt such an easy choice to nominate Ms. Garcia as our Teacher of the Year. She is an incredible asset to Hardin Middle School staff and students. So thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Tired.
Very cool. Now you get it.
Thank you and congratulations. I'd like to ask Ms. Maritza Maravillo, principal at La Paz Middle School, to come up.
Good evening. Unfortunately, our Teacher of the Year, Ms. Valerie Osuna, is not able to attend this evening, but we are very honored to have her as part of our staff, and I will be happy to take this resolution and give it to her at our site. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Terry Lopez, principal of Washington Middle School.
Long time no see, Terry.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Washington Middle School's Teacher of the Year, Miss Lan Clayton. Lan has, come on up. So I have to stand here awkwardly by myself. So Lan has over 20 years of experience in education. She has private sector experience as well as the public sector. She started her career in Southern California and then moved back. She was born and raised here in Monterey County, so she's back here giving back. She has been on the journey of co-teaching. I thank her for her patience and honesty in the implementation, and it's been beneficial to students. So meeting halfway has been something that I've been very grateful at Washington. She's been a team player all along the road, even if it didn't feel like we were on the same team, so we appreciate that. Lan's a proud mother of 2 daughters. Lan's passed her passion of teaching and making a difference for students on to her daughter, Amara, who is here with us here today, and she's actually a teacher in the Salinas Union High School District at Paz Middle School. And Amara will be getting married this summer, and her husband or fiance currently, is currently a teacher at Salinas High School. So Lan brought us 2 people into education. So super excited to present our Teacher of the Year at Washington Middle School, Lan Clayton.
Yes, come on. Yeah, I'll get out of
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks, Mr. Burns.
Congratulations. I'd like to ask Dr. Yvonne Glenn to come up from Mission Trails ROP.
So good evening. Unfortunately, our teacher is not going to be able to make it tonight. So regretfully, she is working on the dental x-ray class. So she apologizes for not being here. So I would like to take a few minutes just to recognize her work and dedication over the years for the dental program. So Leslie was an ROP student 16 years ago, and then she went to industry for another 16, and she's been teaching 16 years for us. And she's a remarkable individual, not only as a teacher but as a person, and she has made such a great impact in all our students throughout the years. So we would like to recognize her work, her dedication and commitment tonight. So thank you for the recognition, and we will pass her on tomorrow. Of course.
I'd like to ask Principal Gloria Chaides to come up from Monterey High School.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Ms. Carol Light as Mount Toro High School's Teacher of the Year. Ms. Light is an amazing teacher. She meets students where they are at Mount Toro High School to make sure that they get the support they need to ensure they are meeting the graduation requirements. She models and supports the Mount Toro High School school-wide behavioral expectations. She upholds the standards for office and professional behavior in the Plato classroom. She is passionate about helping others, especially to make sure that the students are reaching their highest potential. She is phenomenal, and I am very glad and blessed to be working with her at Mount Toro. So thank you for all you do.
Matt can do it. He worked with her at North Carolina. Unless you have more. If you have more, then wait. Oh yeah, do one more first.
Thank you. Happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you.
Already.
All right. Mr. Burns.
So at this time, I'm going to bring up Gemma Peralta from North Salinas High School. when the principal doesn't show up, you get me. So,
Typical Gemma Lynn.
I will say a few superlatives about Gemma, and she'll fill in the gaps. And we also have Matt Fleming, who was an assistant principal who worked with her as well at North High. So this is an amazing teacher, somebody that dedicates herself to students and to learning for all students. She volunteers to do extra things around campus. She does it quietly, almost like Arya Stark would do it, very quietly. And she's as powerful and gets things done. And I watch. So can't figure it out, but I watch. So I will say that she's been an instructional leader on the campus. She's an amazing math teacher at all levels. She does a phenomenal job preparing kids for calculus to move up to the calculus teacher. And so he is rewarded by her preparation work. She works with AVID students. She works with AP level students. It doesn't matter. This is a dedicated and passionate professional and well-deserved honor and recognition as the Teacher of the Year for North Salinas High School. Congratulations.
Even though my principal's not here, I do have my future principal, which is Mr. Hinton, and my past admins as well, and the counselors, and also librarian and other teachers. The other things I've done today was AP testing and also the AP coordinator, so it's been a headache week and a half, but only 3 days left to go. I also am the AVI coordinator, as well as the instructional coach, as Mr. Burns said, but I'm also a Fulbright scholar. That I worked on this semester, and I'll be going to Indonesia this summer as well. I'm not going to Bali. I'm actually working. And I was also a graduate from North Salinas High School and been teaching there for 10 years, and also a Bronco. I graduated class of 2000 and went to school with Gabby as well. So I've been part of this district for a long time, so I wanted that to be known.
Thank you.
I'll still be here. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to all our teacher nominees for Teacher of the Year. And so now I'd like to call up Livy Duzman, Principal of Salinas High School, to present our winner of Teacher of the Year that will be representing us at Monterey County Office of Education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So our nominee was Maggie Power, or is Maggie Power. Maggie, come on up. And she is also the district teacher leader. So it's hard to keep short because there's so much to say, but
keep it short.
I'm a rule follower.
There's like no air in here.
Okay, so Maggie herself, she describes herself as wildly manic. And she's been known to run people over in her little knee scooter, so watch out if you're on the Salinas campus. One of her nominators, Alan Schooley, who's our career counselor, describes Maggie as having vicious exactness when she addresses the lack of effort in some students and her mission to encourage them. So Maggie's been in our district for 11 years. She was at Washington Middle School for 5 years, and then she came to Salinas High, so this is her 6th year. She is absolutely the most energetic person on our campus, no doubt about it. Even after being hit by a car on her bike twice, And she's had multiple knee surgeries, and so the scooter thing is kind of a permanent fixture, yes. And of course, she has the classroom furthest away from the parking lot, yeah.
I teach aerobics there at 3.
So Maggie is absolutely devoted to our seniors. She's a senior English teacher. And one of the most amazing things that happened this year is our 20-time project, which we're now going to call the Senior Capstone. And I thank you, and I'm going to get a little teary-eyed about it, because of her efforts with our seniors and the projects they've been working on, I've had the opportunity to talk to our kids in a whole other way. And so it's just a wonderful... Anyway, so she's willing to help any of our students, not just our English teachers, or English students, for their work in her class. She does an amazing thing with college admission applications, letters of recommendation, scholarships, and I absolutely know that there are many students that have left Salinas High gaining admission to a school because of you and having the part of their way or all their way paid because of you. She's made it her mission, like with the 3M scholarship, we've won it, gosh, I don't know, like 10 times less. And that's a huge, it's $3,500 for the student that wins, but it also brings an additional $9,000 onto our campus. So it's amazing work, Maggie. All right, so thank you for your dedication to the Cowboys. You are absolutely a fantastic candidate for Monterey County Teacher of the Year. So I'm hoping that that's what we hear.
Thank you. You probably can't hear me. I just like to, it's about the students, right? Because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the students. Those are and we need to help them as much as we possibly can, people. And so all of you, all of the teachers of the year of your of the schools, and I don't know you, and I'm sorry I don't know you, go out and ask for scholarships. Because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, hey, I just got Teacher of the Year. How would you like to donate $1,000? So I just think, use it, right? The other thing I'd like to say is I would really hope that the district continues to support the teachers and that the contract gets signed.
Nice segue. Nice segue.
Oh, Teeny, come on up, Teeny.
Wait until you get that picture.
We did. Oh, yeah, I want to bring up my co-teachers real quick. Come on up. Okay, we'll be quick. And that's Caitlin Hardiman. She'll be the next Teacher of the Year, and that's a student of mine, Jules Rena, and she's going to be like the leader of the country.
It's not official till you shake the hand.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Hey, how are you? How's your brother? Good.
Well, thank you very much. And congratulations to all. At this time, we are done with this part of the acknowledgements.
Cool.
Okay, let's move on. That was a great part of our meeting, hearing the presentations. District communications. Okay, so next we're moving on to presentations, so I'll move it over to Dr. Blanca Baltasar Sabah.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Director of Student Support Services, Jennifer Smith, to please come forward, and she will be introducing the team that will be giving you a presentation on the updates from our recommendations and what the committee has done to date.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Thank you so much for letting us present to you tonight on our updates of the Special Education Leadership Team that has been meeting since 2017. Just to review our process, as we have some new board members. The Special Education Leadership Team was developed as part of the collaboration between the district district admin, SVFT, and CSEA. The team was comprised of representatives and stakeholders from many different areas, and care was taken to ensure that there were representation from each of the sites. Recommendations for the special education report were organized into 3 focus areas: instructional, culture and climate, and operations. Team members self-selected to work in these 3 groups to address recommendations and develop an action plan. The team members have met throughout these years and continue to work towards our goals of meeting these action items. And we are here just to update you on our progress, and we have a lot of accomplishments, but we also still have a lot of work to do. I wanted to invite my fellow presenters to come up and have a closer seat. In instruction, Jennifer Fano and Caitlin Thurston will be presenting. In culture and climate, Sarah Rittenheimer and Rebecca Moore will be presenting. And in operation, Steve McDougall, and in operational, Katie Vassler. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Fano. I'm an educational specialist at Salinas High School. I've been there about 14 years.
My name is Caitlin Thurston. I'm a speech language pathologist with the district. I've been across numerous school sites throughout the years.
So we were part of the focus area of instruction, and the first recommendation for instruction came in 2 parts. First, establish an expectation that administrators participate in professional development related to the implementation of the co-teaching model, as well as having offerings supporting a systematic implementation of inclusionary practices at the site level. So to address these recommendations, protocols and information on co-teaching are presented to all administrators during a leadership meeting, and as well as weekly tips are sent out by our instructional coaches. This has been ongoing and will be continued as an established procedure. The second action to address the recommendation is to have specific impact training at the master schedules job alike. Specific impact training has been a topic since January 2018 and will continue as an established procedure. The final strategy to address this recommendation is to have admin attend a summer PD on co-teaching. Training from 2Teach was conducted for all admin in May of 2018, and the next training will be scheduled earlier in the school year for the new administrators.
The second recommendation was to pursue improvements in achievement results for all students, as well as all student subgroups, including students with disabilities, as well as improvements on graduation rates. The one action strategy recommended was to review student with disability data regularly at school sites and district meetings, and ask groups to consider next steps for improving this data. The accomplishments include the creation of the data guide and protocol. The data guide is a document to support admin and teachers in analyzing data and includes how, where, and when to review that data. The protocol is a guideline for discussing data used in PLCs and in other meetings. The data guideline and protocol have been distributed to the sites and will be ongoing used to analyze data.
Success. All right, the third recommendation under instruction was to ensure that special education data is included with reports produced by the district and provide general communication on how the district is performing. All reports include students with disabilities subgroup data, and this has been an ongoing established procedure.
The next recommendation, number 4, was to continue to review the percentage of students being identified as students with disabilities, particularly with respect to students identified within the category of intellectually disabled. As a side note, this category was included in the recommendations because that particular year we had a disproportionate number of students with that category. This is something analyzed every year by the state, and those proportionates change depending on the category that may or may not be disproportionate. So action strategies include reviewing the data regularly at site and district meetings and using the data protocol and guidelines. This data is reported to the California Department of Education and will continue with that procedure and it will be ongoing. The other information will be collecting, the other steps will be collecting feeder district information, and that information is available from the California Department of Education, and we're working on transition meetings with the feeder districts that happen every year. And they'll continue with that established protocol. The other one is district-wide training for counselors, intervention specialists, and assistant principals who oversee counseling and student with disabilities. The accomplishments for this recommendation are monthly meetings to discuss students with disabilities, and student support director is invited to attend and participate, and will continue with that ongoing procedure.
So the fifth recommendation instruction addressed was to create professional development plan for general education, special education, and paraeducators. The 2019-2020 school year PD has been scheduled for ed specialists, co-teachers, and paraeducators. And then an action strategy, I'm sorry, I forgot to change it. An action strategy was added in November 2018 to create professional development for general education teachers. This is completed at the new teacher orientation training that occurs yearly. And in addition, our next steps is to survey site admin, ed specialists, and general education teachers on the best process for sharing a presentation on an overview of special education services. After the survey is completed, the professional development will be planned and delivered, and the time frame for this is the beginning of the next school year.
Recommendation number 6 was the expansion of the physical education leadership program to all sites housing moderate to severe special education programs. At the time this audit was conducted, I think there was only one program at the time at North Salinas High School. So the action strategy was to expand it to all sites. At this time, all high schools that have moderate severe programs do have the PE leadership program, and will continue with the established program, and as well as add it to Rancho San Juan High School and Alisal High School if moderate to severe programs move to that campus.
So the final recommendation for instruction was that co-teaching procedures must be revisited and consistently implemented. The first action item was to create a document that explains the ways that special education services are delivered to students. A document was created with agreed upon vision, common definitions, and terms. The next step is to disseminate the document to a staff in a professional development in August or September of this year. The next action items for this recommendation were to complete best practices for scheduling co-teachers and create a protocol, and create a plan for sustained structured support and reflection throughout the year. Protocol and timelines have been established in an MOU with the district and SVFT. This is continuing as negotiation teams determine contract language. And I think that is all we have for the 7 action items for instruction.
You got my back?
We've got your back.
All right, ladies, thank you. All right. I get nervous when people stand behind me nowadays, anyways. Okay. Well, we were on the Culture and Climate subgroup for the task force, and we explored many avenues to attract, recruit, and retain staff to help support students with disabilities, as well as to potentially grow our own. And to start with, we need to continue and further develop our relationships with local universities. That is happening, it's ongoing, it has been happening. For example, we've been able to produce over a couple of dozen interns with UC Santa Cruz, where they are working at Alvarez, Alisal, and Hardin Middle School, respectively. Additionally, we've been able to participate in statewide grants to pipeline classified support staff to eventually become teachers, and I'd gladly accept their union dues. Someday soon. Soon. All right, anyways, revenue. We'll work something out. Also, we want to grow our own, starting in the classroom with our own students to become teachers. You saw an example tonight of a number of folks who came back as, who were former students who came back to us as teachers, and that is a trend that's been going on for quite a while, and I think it's even more so today. Because of the economy, it's hard to leave home and try to find your own place to live, so our benefit is folks end up living with their own parents and guardians and stick around. It's a benefit to the district, unfortunately, because of the economy. But we do have a future educator class and club at North High, and the goal is to spread that to the other high schools in the near future, as soon as next school year. And so that's something we're looking to do. Also, we need to advertise more aggressively, not just locally, but nationally, through Ed Week, Ed Join, social media. This has resulted in recruiting students from as many as 15 universities across our great land, and we need to keep this up, and our search needs to be far and wide. We're in a teacher shortage, so we need to try to poach folks from even beyond our time zone and get them on board. We need their help. Also, a couple of attractive retention and recruitment and retention considerations are to open up our own child care center so that folks can afford to start a family and do it in-house. And that way Lucy can collect more union dues. All right. I'm always thinking, revenue. And develop relationships with apartment complex owners so that maybe we can create some MOUs and some affordable housing for staff, both classified and certificated. Amen. Preach. And then lastly, explore potential ways to fund employee workforce housing owned by the district but subcontracted by a third party. And so that's something the superintendent has been talking about with the bargaining units as well. So those are some things we're focusing on, where we're at and where we're going. We are a district on the move, even if things are a little slow at the negotiations table. More later on that.
Hi, I'm Becky Moore, Director of Human Resources. And for recommendation 2, there are several actions and strategies that have begun and we're continuing to refine. Continue with discernment interviews for both certificated and classified staff. This was done in 17-18 with new teachers about what supports they needed, and so that is continuing with our new teacher program, and we are also continuing to use exit surveys for anyone who leaves our district so that we can gather information about what we're doing well and what things that we can do better to serve our employees. Ensure that professional development meets the needs for the positions assigned. And so, again, the professional development is being provided based on the feedback that we're getting from our employees, as well as what we see happening in classrooms so that we can address real needs. We also have 2 classified in-service days scheduled for 2019-20. A review of industry standard compensation for classified support staff should be conducted. And again, in our contract Appendix J, we have a cycle for reclassification studies. So we are currently reviewing classification cycles 2 and 3, and next year we will be looking at cycle 4. Turnover analysis for classified support staff, including those who move to other job classifications within the district. And this is something that we are scheduled to conduct at the end of the school year once we get a better picture of who is staying and who is leaving so that we can identify what are the causes and what are the things that we can do to retain employees. Recommendation 3 has 2 actions. And this is about the staffing ratios. Human Resources and Student Support Services will review staffing ratio recommendations for all genres of staffing. And this is ongoing each spring and December when we hold staffing meetings to look at teacher needs, to look at classified needs, to identify where we've had movement and where we can add staff if we need to do so to meet student needs. And finally, for positions, especially classified, that are hard to staff due to absences, leaves, itinerant positions should be created to avoid short staffing at any time. And this is something that has been done in student support services, particularly with behavior specialists and para-educators. We're also now exploring ways that we can reach out to our local junior colleges to see if we can recruit students into these positions.
So recommendation number 4, Associate Superintendent and the HR Assistant Superintendent with the Special Education Administration consider steps that can be taken to create a stronger culture of responsiveness and resourcefulness and to improve communication with staff and parents. So our action strategy for this one is to hold a welcome rally for parents to know programs, services, and support. Our team decided to go a different route. So our new plan is to develop a plan to specifically reach out and include incoming 7th and 9th graders in the orientations at the beginning of the year. All stakeholders in charge of this recommendation will be brainstorming and coming together to create some ideas, and as well as creating a transitional IEP worksheet to reflect the parent-family's desire for the student to participate. The timeline for this is spring planning, July to August, and reveal the results annually if needed. The next one is to establish protocols for responses. We're refining protocols for responses to improve communication with staff and parents. Regular meetings have been established to continue to address protocols. This will be revisited at the end of first instructional week of each year. And then the last one is to use the beginning of the year meetings to introduce district admin support and staff and protocols for receiving timely responsive support. These introductions are to take place during the new teacher orientation induction week. And the next steps are developing communication protocols, and the timeline is at the end of August of each year. Good evening, my name is Katie Bassler, and I'm a member of the operational part of this task force. The first recommendation was to pursue other means to identify students with disabilities. And we started with the first action, which was to revisit our student study team handbook. Oh, it's okay.
It's mood lighting. Cozy in here.
And in case you're not clear about what a student study team is, it's where a team of teachers, counselor, student, parent come together, look at the strengths and weaknesses of students, and recommend interventions. And then 6 weeks later, they meet again to see how the interventions are doing. And if the student is achieving with those interventions, then we continue with them. And then otherwise, if they continue to fail or not show growth, that's when we recommend either assessment or a 504 plan. So this is really important in terms of identifying students with disabilities and not over-identifying them. So we restructured the student handbook, and then 2 years ago, we measured how many SSTs were taking place, and there were sites that had no SSTs. And so the subcommittee, we're continuing to look at the SST handbook, but I think it's in a very good shape. We've also integrated forms from CIRUS, which is the database for our IEPs, so that it's in there as well. This is the second action, was a training on SSTs. Intervention specialists, counselors, administrators all received this. And this needs to be ongoing as staff revolves. You'll see that the accomplishments, they've had several SSTs, both for Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. The next action is identifying who would be charged with this. All sites have at least 2 SST coordinators, which centralizes it and makes sure that there is calibration in how the SST is run. And that, again, needs to be ongoing. The next action was establishing a notification system in CIRUS. And working with IT, and we've been working with it and piloting it at Alvarez. Our SST coordinator has tried to do this. The positive part about this and why it's important is if a student has an SST done in middle school and then goes to high school and another SST is recommended, they can have a record of what was already done in middle school. So this is a very important action. And this is, we're still working with CIRUS to make this more streamlined. And then lastly of this action is we are continuing to collect data on the SSTs. And Ms. Sanchez and I just worked on releasing the survey again to all the SST coordinators. And immediately we got responses, like within 10 minutes I got from one middle school 8 SSTs. And none were recommended for assessment. So we're looking at our interventions and we're making sure that students are getting them and recording them in the SSTs.
So for operational recommendation number 2, clear expectations in the role of the IEP team in making decisions regarding eligibility and placement is essential for making sure that the services are being rendered in the way that they should be for that particular student's prescription or their need. New administrative training has been provided for the admin at the admin induction meeting, and that's through HR. They have training each year. Prioritizing PED that consists of standards with clear expectations repeated through the training on IEP procedures. We were able to do that with staff at one of the instructional leadership council meetings with all admin. And we need to continue doing that so that they're up to date on their role in the IEP meeting and making sure that they're representing as a LEA or a local plan agency. We had talked about identifying a video series on student support services or SPED protocols and norms, but built into our Cyrus system, they have videos available that we're now teaching teachers how to more readily access those videos and be able to learn from them. We are in the practice of having staff meetings prior to IEPs so that everybody can be on the same page, particularly when it's a litigious IEP, but we're encouraging sites to do that more often so that everybody understands their role going into the IEP.
You want to trade off or you want me to?
Do you want me to finish that one?
Sure.
And I'll do the last one.
Okay. For operationals, recommendation number 3, reviewing and implementing practices on some schools in the district have attained for RTI, co-teaching and collaboration in developing a plan and ensuring system-wide implementation. The first action item was to distribute a survey to the district to collect referrals and intervention practices and that include co-teaching training and SELPA co-teaching training. The survey was first distributed in 2017 and will need to be updated and continue to be sent out so that we can work with all the staff to collaborate and make sure that we're designating that co-teaching in an appropriate way. A survey was also identified to perceive current teaching co-teaching models. So there's 6 models of co-teaching, and all 6 could be used in one period. Might be a little hard, but there are definitely some that are used more than others, and we want to work with our instructional coaches to help them feel comfortable in using all the different models and supporting them to explore those. We also want to provide PDs on interpretation of assessment, and that is in progress so that when the team comes together and they're making a very informed decision on the appropriate placement for students with IEPs. We also looked at developing a survey for veteran pairs, and these are all new action items in the yellow that we determined would better help support teachers in that. And so we identified pairs of co-teachers, and a survey will be sent out to look at what has made them successful. And they have been together for some time, and we'd like to know what their delivery model has been and the models that they've chosen in co-teaching. And we have some of those fantastic co-teachers here tonight.
The last recommendation was to consider additional administrative support in the special education department, as well as future changes in the overall structure of the department. And there's one action that's partially complete. One is to create new positions of instructional coaches, assistant director to support Mod Severe, and coordinate professional development, having program coordinators at the adult center. For this school year, and 2 instructional coaches were hired, and they started, this year. And then the next steps is an area that we have discussed in the leadership group, that our current structure with having one director, and so Mrs. Smith and also Mrs. Sanchez, the structure is not working. There's 2 people doing 3 people's jobs. So there's other ways to restructure it, and also additional clerical staff. I think that this is the team thinks that this needs to be reviewed and monitored as needed. And thank you.
This was a great presentation. However, I have a couple of questions. Absolutely, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone who's been a part of the committee and the leadership for the many years that it's been in place, because there's
been a lot of contributions in different areas. This report really affects every department in our district, and it's been amazing how everyone's been able to come together and be a part of these action items. Thank you.
No, I definitely agree, and I think it's great. I mean, this is a great, we see the list of names, and I think it's a great team that meets. And that's my question. From 2017 to 19 that it states, how often did you meet?
I know this year we've met 4 times. I believe 4 times. We've had a couple prep meetings just for the presentation itself, but.
So it was a prep meeting or actually getting the work
The
done?
content. So 3, 4, I'm hearing 4 this past year. And then prior to that, I was not the facilitator,
But, so you met to prep for tonight? Oh,
Separately than the-
Okay. And that's my question, because this is a great presentation, great ways of how you're looking at things, the accomplishments, next steps. That's great. My concern is how often are you going to meet to make assure that this happens, to assure that you do the analysis on the turnover, because how often are you going to meet to do that work? You've done it now, but when are you going to do it again to assure that you meet the needs? Because it says right there too, for the staffing needs, but how often are you going to do that? And does that involve the whole team, or is that something that people come together and just share that with the district?
If I may, so the first year that that we created the 3 committees, the committees, we met maybe 5 times, I don't remember the first year, but the work was done as a subcommittee. So the subcommittees would meet separately as needed, and then when you came together as an entire team, we would share the work that had been done, and others were able to provide input. That was the first year. I'm not sure if that's how it worked this year, but
we met as a
similarly.
subcommittee this year.
And that's what we want to hear, because we totally enjoy hearing the presentation, but we also want to know that that work's really happening at the site. Another piece that you stated that there was 2 days for paraprofessional training, 2 days for the coming year. Is that mandatory paid? Is that mandatory for the employees, or is that just are you inviting them?
So, in our contract, we are required to hold these 2 professional development days. We work together with our classified union to plan the days, and one of them for the upcoming school year is occurring on a weekday that is a non-student day. So it is a regular work day for 12-month employees where we can definitely require them to be there. We strongly encourage our 10-month employees to attend, and we pay them to attend. However, because it's not one of their official work days, it's difficult to make it officially mandatory. So it has to do with the way that we publicize and making sure that we are offering classes and professional development that feels relevant to them. And so that's something that we work with CSEA to do jointly. We decided together to try doing a Saturday for our second PD day next year, because we thought that actually might work better for some employees. So it's going to be a pilot to see how it goes.
Okay, thank you. We also have a question from Trustee Rubio.
So, I was of the same concern or that you had also. Not a concern, but just to make sure that with all those distractions that happen, that the meetings do take place, that we see some change, that they don't just, sit on the shelf and then, months go by and nothing's changed. And I'm looking at the union people for, that support and also everybody else, everybody. This I'm addressing you, Madam President. This is the result of that, those people that came and did the whole check of the system, right? Several years, a couple of years ago?
Yes, that's one of the reasons, because we did have the audit, and so there were some findings, yes.
Yeah, that was it. Okay, so that's good, and I saw that, and, I'm happy with the report, and I'm glad it's moving forward, and I just hope it stays on track and, maybe give us a report collectively like you did today, on this, and I'm happy that all the people work together, so thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Trustee Sassy Jones?
Thank you for your hard work on this. And I would just urge you to make sure that you ask us for the support that you need in supporting the co-teaching model, in supporting trainings and payment for trainings, because this is so essential to helping students and helping teachers. So just keep that in mind. We got your back, to use your words, Mr. McDougall.
Trustee Ocampo?
I'd just like to say to all of you, who put all this team together since the beginning, as Dr. Balthazar mentioned a while ago, this is not just made up recently. You have meet consequentially many times. And what you have presented tonight is a guide to our paths, to secure that our students will get what they need, to succeed in their lives. I'm amazing and I'm very satisfied with your presentation tonight. And I don't think there's a doubt at all, that we as a board members could never support you in any condition, as long as it's related to education and working together as a family. I think we're all 100% committed as an elected official. And also just to, in a second note, I was at Starbucks yesterday and I picked up the Mercury newspaper. And I was thrilled to the front page where it says that Gilroy High School has been selected to be one of the top-notch third, high school district in the state of California. So I'm beginning to wonder, what are they doing differently than we are not? So just give an idea, see what we can get from them and implement it in our district. Why not? Everything in this life is a matter of learning. And if you don't try, you will never find out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Ocampo. Trustee Cabrera?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for your report. That was pretty thorough. Except I was listening for something else. I was listening for a comment or a statement of some sort. I don't know if it was a comment, statement, same thing. I was listening for something that would tell me that articulation with feeder districts and those students who are not identified, whether or not that's an issue or not, and it, even though it wasn't mentioned, I think it is an issue because we have several districts within our boundaries who all will do something different, and I think a lot of people have been around a little while and kind of sense that a lot of students are falling through the cracks at our feeder districts, and then we end up having, I don't want to say it like that, but not picking up the slack, but in a sense, making up for all the time that they were sitting in an elementary classroom and were never evaluated by anyone, and how much those situations, and maybe just the situation in general, has hurt those young people. And so my question, I guess it would be an operational question, I don't know, is regarding articulation. And are you all involved with our administrators to develop those lines of communication with our feeder districts? Because I think, that's where the rubber hits the road,
So I do meet monthly with the other directors of special education at the feeder districts. And then when we're preparing for transitions, which starts pretty much in January now, it used to start in March, I meet with the feeder districts to determine how we're going to transition the students and support them. Through those conversations, we've actually had opportunity to talk about our placement options and our programs, and very similarly, they want to have what we have, right? They want to implement some co-teaching. They want to have classes that align with our classes, because otherwise it's hard for families and students to matriculate up to us. Additionally, Dr. Balthazar has set up opportunities for all department heads to do some articulation work with some of our feeder districts, which has been invaluable.
Well, that sounds pretty good, except I I kind of have this feeling that we are having more students than we've ever had in the past. And unless of course there's some way that we can hold a hammer over their heads and make them do certain things before the students get here, we're going to still continue to have the same issues and they're going to get bigger. And I'm just wondering whether or not are we in this process of developing an MOU that we'll be able to have some leverage, I suppose you could say, over the districts that are feeding into our district?
So I knew that the superintendent has shared with all of us that that's one of his goals, and I know he's beginning that work. But I think that we could put another request so that we could ask to get some of the information to us sooner. But I know the superintendent, Dr. Blanca Baltasar Zapal, have shared with all of us that that is something that they're working on. But that is definitely an important piece. So I want to turn to Trustee Rojas.
You already did request that right now.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Rojas?
Okay, I'll be the black sheep and play devil's advocate this time. One thing that I learned is that I never believe everything that I read from the media. One of the reasons was when the best Mexican restaurant in the country was Taco Bell. I disagree with that. So I mean, I understand that Gilbert was voted like the third best in the state. I would ask a series of questions: who made that decision? And a series of questions. I believe after meeting with teachers, staff, chairpersons, our district, that we have the best and qualified teachers in our area, and I truly mean it. That's why I support SVFT and its CSEA completely all the way. And just by looking at the action plan, this is the kind of system that I want to see working. I see district administrations, SVFT, CSEA, representative stakeholders of the Student Support Service Department all working together to come up with a collective effort and making it better for their students, updating it. That's the kind of work I want to see at all times. And this is the perfect system that I want to see all of us collaboratively working into developing, and I see all the hard work that was put into this. So I was able to read it completely, and I go, okay, this is where this is going. This is a recommendation, and I just want to say I completely support 100%.
Once again, thank you so much. It was a great presentation. Thank you. So I'm turning it back over to Dr. Blanca Baltasar.
Actually, it's Mr. Burns, but I just wanted a few seconds just to say and to thank all of the committee members. The subcommittees really do a lot of the work, and although administration is also part of that, a lot of the work and the ideas are really from the people that are in the classrooms or supporting our students. So I just want to give them also a really big thank you, because we could not do it without everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Burns?
So thank you, President Padilla-Salzberg. So if the board remembers, we a few years ago had a communication assessment. We hired Tom DeLapp and Stephen Nichols from Communications Resources to come in and do an assessment. Part of the results of that were the recommendation to include, with a district our size and getting larger, to include a director of communications position, and we hired Marcos Cabrera. And so part of his work for the past several months has been working with Steve and Tom on building a communication plan for the district. So tonight's your first look at that communication plan. So I'm going to introduce the Director of Communications, Marcos Cabrera.
Good evening, Board. It's a real pleasure to be talking tonight and giving you this presentation. For the moment, I'm going to hand it over to Tom DeLapp, who is the President CEO of Communication Resources for Schools. Him and his partner, Stephen Nichols, will be doing the introductions for this presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. Glad to be here again. We talked to you about the need for communication back in February of 18. and we had a long conversation about how communication is an essential ingredient of what you do. And we spent our time since then doing an assessment of your capacity to communicate internally and of the structures that you had. And the direct result of that was the hiring of Marcos. And subsequently, we then have been doing some closer support to him, a lot of coaching and advising, and bringing together his thoughts, the superintendent's thoughts, cabinet's thoughts, and our thoughts on moving forward with an aggressive communication plan, so that you don't just go out and PR all over everybody, you actually have a plan that you're following. So this is a little bit about what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to introduce us a little bit more, give you the background on this initiative that we're doing, talk about the plan's goals, specific objectives we hope to accomplish, and some anticipated outcomes. And then there'll be an opportunity for questions. So just by brief update, I'm president of the company, been around for 23 years, used to be the assistant executive director of AXA, school administrators. So we have a lot of experience in working with school districts, close to 500 so far in California, on everything from sexual misconduct cases to communication plans to marketing and enrollment campaigns to communication audits. I'm the immediate past president of the National School Public Relations Association, and so we bring a national perspective to what we do, and I've received several awards from them, and also received an award from AXA, their highest honor, the Ferd Kiesel Award, which is given for outstanding contributions to public education. So, and that was the first and only educational communications professional to get that award, so I feel pretty good about it. I'll let Stephen introduce himself a little bit more, and let Marcos again introduce himself and what his experience is. But we've put together, I think, a pretty dynamic plan, and I'm going to go ahead and call on Stephen to run through the details of that.
Members of the governing board, superintendent, I'm glad to be here. I'm Stephen Nichols. I serve as executive vice president of the company. I've been with Communication Resources for Schools since 2014, before which I've had the unique privilege of being in what Marcos' shoes is. I've been a communications public information officer, director of communications, and most recently, before I started with the firm, chief communications officer down in San Juan Capistrano. So I have a real good understanding of what this kind of role is and how to do it. I got a chance to work with Marcos over the past year, and it's been really, really incredible. Let me walk through some of this communications initiative of what we've been doing. So we started with a communications assessment. That's what we were doing in the 2017 and 18 school year. We presented to you the results of how communication is working on a mass notification scale, and how you're using your systems to communicate with your stakeholders. And one of those recommendations was to, in fact, create the position, which you all accepted and have done. So over the course of the last year, with meetings with Dan and with meetings with Marcos, we've identified specifically what are some of the communication goals and challenges. I'm going to run briefly through the goals with you in just a second, but I think what's important is that you know that there's no goal that we can create without a identified problem. The cornerstone of Tom and me, our profession, we're accredited in public relations, and that means we follow a four-step process. It's much like your educators will follow when they're building an educational or a curriculum plan. It has to start with the research. So that research that we used in 2017 and 2018 was the benchmark for what we were doing here. We put Marcos through we call the masterclass in school public relations. We spent several hours working with him, already having a background he does as a television reporter or an educator as well, and having done this role in another district, it was pretty easy we were already speaking the same languages, but we believe communications of one of three S's, and we went through all of the sections. Of course, the systems communication, your mass notification, your how you communicate with families through newsletters and so forth. We talked about what happens in a high-profile situation. I think it was Marcos' second day or third day when he had to go on camera and deal with high-profile things with the media, and he's done that several times this year. In fact, with your school year ending next week, we will be furnishing for you all a communications assessment on your media coverage over the course of the year. So we can continue to use that in his future communications plans. And finally, and I think this is what tonight is culminating in that final S, which is strategic communication. Really identifying the research, the plan, the implementation, and evaluation of that plan. I'm going to go briefly over the communication plan goals, and Marcos is going to come through and detail each one of those goals for you and show you some evidence and how we came to those conclusions. The enhancing the capacity for effective systems communication is one of the primary goals. Building awareness for the kinds of programs and offerings that you currently have in this district is something else that's going to be addressed in the 2019-20 communications plan. Making sure that your public image stays up and that it's positive, and more importantly, it's truly reflective of who you are as an organization. Providing communication services. This is something that before Marcos' position was created, it was very hard to do, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about how we now in this function can provide services to your site administrations and how to the district administration as well. And finally is this increasing student attendance by using communication. It might sound, how are you going to do that from what you're doing, from that role, but this is a good opportunity for him to demonstrate to you how a good strategic program can actually take care of that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to your newly appointed Director of Communications, Marcos Cabrera.
All right. So first off, one of the things that we are talking about doing is introducing and enhancing communication tools. As you may already know or have noticed, since I got here, we were able to start up a Facebook page, start up a Twitter account. That's just kind of trying to scratch the surface of what the possibilities for telling our stories are going to be. So for May 2020, the goal is going to be to operate 4 or 5 new or enhanced communication tools, including enhancing our Facebook presence and Twitter, launching an Instagram account, launching a YouTube account, as well as enhancing district and school websites, just so that people can get kind of constant presence, understanding everything that's happening at all of our school sites, as well as at the district administrative level, and as well for the board as well. You may see me out at different sites already with my camera, pretty steady presence now. Just anticipate more and more of that as we go along, as I'm trying to kind of tell people what our story is, what the true narrative of this district is. And then engaging in two-way communication with the community. We had a really excellent response with the Superintendent Summit, something that Superintendent Burns saw through and realized the opportunity that was there to promote all the programming that was all the wonderful programming happening at all of our school sites, as well as kind of doing dangling the carrot with the stick with the new high school. So we had a really positive response to that from the media. We had all of our local media affiliates there to promote it, and the coverage was by far positive. So we want to enhance that and make sure that grows each year going forward. Community forums and special meetings, just making sure that we are able to get out there and promote all of everything that's happening at our school sites, just beyond our own channels, beyond just me coming over to board meetings. Whatever, if we have to go out to, if I have to go out to city council meetings, or if I can be present at, PTO meetings, whatever public forums that I can make myself available for to promote our district, that is going to be something that I'll look forward to doing and expanding on for the next year. And expanding key communication initiatives and sharing information to promote education with community members who don't have students enrolled in our schools. I think that's a really critical piece, making sure that folks that aren't parents, folks that don't have students enrolled in our schools are aware of the important things that we're doing here. We want to make sure that SUHSD, the brand itself, we're not just trying to promote to our parents, we're promoting it citywide, countywide, and making sure that everyone understands that they have a stake in this wonderful institution that we have here. Building awareness of programs and services. And so you may have seen how we're trying to promote that internally with our school websites, with our Facebook page, and also through local media. 2020, we plan on publishing news releases, website articles, more photography, more videos, with a focus on telling specific stories and narratives for our school sites. And I'm going to give a couple examples here. North Salinas High School, I'm trying to work with some of their faculty and administration there to try and develop ways for them to be able to take all of their current channels, social media channels, and make sure that they're getting all of their information about everything that they got going on that campus. Paz Middle School, I've been visiting Paz Middle School quite a lot this past month and a half. I feel like there's a ton of stuff, a ton of activity going on that the community is unaware of. They have a great MESA program out there, great science and STEM teachers out there that we want to build upon promoting that middle school, because even though it's 20 years old, it still feels relatively new to this community. And so I want to make sure that we enhance the image of that middle school as much as we can. Of course, Rancho San Juan High School, that is going to kind of come up. The grand opening for that high school, I anticipate, is going to be just a monumental moment for us here at this school district. All the hard work and commitment that's been involved from all of the stakeholders here. That's going to be really a crowning achievement for us, and I look forward to being on the ground when we open that school up. Another piece that we really need to help publicize is our probation officer program. There's a lot of discussion out in the community about SROs, and I know it gets to be a touchy subject, but we know that we have a probation officer connection here. We know we have probation officers that are available on all of our campuses, and we want to make sure that we highlight what they are doing on our campuses, all the hard work and the connections that they're making with the campus communities. So that's going to be one of the stories that I really want to help promote for the coming school year. And we'll move into the Superintendent's Summit video. This is just going to give you an idea of some of the content.
So welcome to Rancho San Juan High School. What do you think so far? We appreciate you coming. This is our first inaugural Superintendent Summit. It gives us an opportunity to share with the community the great things we do in the Salinas Union High School District.
Today was a great opportunity for us to get out there and just share what we are doing in our schools.
We can't just talk about it, we need to be able to show it.
We're going to foster the mindset of students towards believing in their future.
We want people to know amazing things are happening in Salinas Union High School District.
This is all about helping students learn how to cope and learn how to be successful and giving them the tools so that they can move forward.
Well, we're trying to create and promote a sense of community, a sense of belonging.
If a student comes to school and feels like, I belong here, I can learn, they will.
7 out of every 10 students that graduate are going to college straight out of our high schools.
There is great work happening in the Salinas Union High School District.
That we're strong and we're doing a lot of cutting edge work.
Today's event was a great success because it allowed us to share the amazing things that are going on in our district.
So our motto has been to be a champion. Being a champion has been about helping out others and supporting our young people. So as you leave here and you talk about the things that you saw and learned today, keep focused and remember that being a champion is for all of us.
Thanks. You want a signature?
Moving forward, so we all got the nice warm and fuzzies after that video, and we want to continue to grow upon that because we know that there's wonderful things that are happening every single day here at our school sites and at this district. So ensuring that the public image is positive and reflective of the true narrative of this district, that's something that I take personal. As you may or may not know, I'm a proud Alisal High School graduate. But also, my son's graduating from Salinas High School next week. So I'm a Trojan cowboy, if that's possible. Right? It's possible. It's possible. I married a cowgirl, so it's possible. But we want to. I am fully aware from my personal experience, the wonderful experience I had at LaSalle High School, of what the possibilities that are available here, and from watching my son grow into a strong young man that he is today at Salinas High School. I'm fully aware of the commitment of our teachers and the administration and everyone that's involved here at this school district. So I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to enhance the narrative, to promote the true narrative, with the goal in mind of May 2020. I want to increase positive coverage of the district by 5%. And Mr. Nichols earlier, he said he's going to give us a little media assessment, kind of a grid with his own take on what's positive and what's negative. And I know we can improve upon that. Just today I was over at LaSalle High School taking photos of the senior walk that of LaSalle High School grads that were walking through the Montebello Elementary School campus. Next week, more Salinas High School graduates will be walking through elementary school campuses, and I want to promote that. Some wonderful things are happening every single day here at this high school district and at this middle school district, and I want to make sure that that's what's going to be side by side along with anything else that folks may be slinging our way. And on top of that, I'm the first line of defense when the criticism happens or when things aren't going so smoothly. I'm prepared. I've been prepared to do that, and I take pride in being that first line of defense and making sure that folks get the truth. It's because we're not about trying to hide anything at the school. Or at this district, we want to be as transparent as possible, and I know that kind of goes through my office, the responsibility. And also, each semester, district hold editorial meetings with newspapers to share goals and objectives of the trustees and our superintendent. My background is in print journalism, so I do have keen awareness of what is involved with daily editorial decisions. So in that role, I know that I can go and talk to editors and let them know, what information should be out there, in the leads of the stories that they write about us. Moving forward, providing communication support for staff. Now, we talking about introducing a communications ticket system, which is something that would allow staff at any of the school sites to just like you're getting a tech ticket. If you want me to go and cover something, this is going to be the process for me to be able to go out there. But one thing that is not noted in here that I want to make you all aware of is my availability to any of our school site admins during situations of crisis or messaging, emergency messaging. It's something that is that I'm constantly working with administrators week in and week out, where they need to, even if they just need to bounce some ideas about an incident that happened on a campus, I'm there available at a moment's notice to look over the messaging or to provide guidance on what the messaging should be. And I really appreciate all of the support the administrators have provided to me and trusting me with that message. I don't take that for granted, because it is something that is going to define us ultimately. And that messaging, we're learning, with today's social media climate, the way we respond with our messaging can define us, even for short periods of time. And that's just extra work that we all have to take upon ourselves to shift that narrative. So making myself available to all of our administrators is a key role for me, and something that I want to make sure that you're all aware of, that I'll be pushing forward for the next school year. And then providing professional development for mass notification systems. Currently looking into some new systems that may help us in sending out mass notifications, and also making myself available for support when we do send out non-emergency notifications, construction happening that may hamper you know, picking up your student at 3 o'clock, just making the families more aware of everything that's happening at all of our school sites, not just crisis response. And this last one, I know I know we have a culture here where families, you know, they put a lot on their students, whether it's responsibilities watching younger siblings at home, whether it's you know, the responsibility of going away for certain lengths of time during the holidays, going out of the country. I'm keenly aware of that, having grown up in this community. So what I hope to do is to use that awareness, that personal awareness, just to remind parents, to remind families of the importance of attending our school, even with those added responsibilities, and making sure that the message is crafted to be fully aware of all the responsibilities that our working families have in this community, but making it aware as well of the importance of ensuring that your children are able to attend school. I was at Hartnell College for a registration for my son a couple weeks ago, and they were asking the parents, what can you commit to make sure that your child is going to be dedicated to school? And just for me, my answer was, you know, I'll give him a ride every day to school and pick him up every day at school if that's what he needs. And if we didn't deliver the message like that to families, what can you commit to ensure that your child can get back and forth to school on a regular basis? What can you commit to ensure that your child isn't, you know, suffering from, or not suffering from, but you know, falling into the category of students that are chronically absent? You know, what kind of messaging can we provide that's going to be relevant to this community, and also sensitive to the needs of our families? I'm keenly aware of that, and I want to make sure that the message is delivered properly and with respect to our stakeholders. And so, intended results of our efforts. Just a greater understanding and support for our district staff. Just making sure that I'm here going the extra mile for our staff when they need messaging support, or when they have stories that they want to be able to share and they're maybe uncertain of the way to go about sharing those stories. Building capacity for high quality communication outputs. You saw the video there. I'm hoping to expand upon that, not just personally myself doing that production, but me and Superintendent Burns have been in discussions about collaborating with some of our student filmmakers and some of our student media types. One of the things that I haven't even shared is I was an educator prior to coming here. I taught media production at Millennium Charter High School, but I also hosted a 2-week media boot camp called Monterey County Youth Media Project, where I worked with primarily Alisal High School students, teaching them how to be journalists. And so that was a 2-week program that I ran the past 2 years. So that's a kind of part of my skill set that I haven't even been able to utilize here in the school district. And as I'm going along here further, I intend to use that skill set and to work with our students where I can to help build that capacity. Cultivating and sustaining positive relationships, that's with stakeholders, that's with media, that's with staff and administration and board. Just making sure that I'm responsive and that I'm making sure that I'm available to folks. Timely and accurate communication. From having worked in the newsroom, I know the importance of meeting a deadline and getting communication out as quickly as possible. So that is definitely a priority for me. And then building confidence among stakeholders. I don't know how, I gotta find out the history of this school district, how old we are. But we have so much, such a good positive reputation that we could build upon from our presence here in this community, this being the, I'm assuming the oldest school district here in the city. And I will look into that, but I will make sure that we are representative of people's trust and responsive to their needs. And I just want to close this by saying I just thank you all for the opportunity to work here and to be a representative, and a special thanks to the cabinet for your support, and special thanks to Superintendent Burns for having the trust in me day in and day out to deliver the messages for the school district.
So thank you so much. That was a great presentation. So I'm going to go over an applause to you for your presentation. Thank you. So I'm going to start with Trustee Rubio, who has a question for you.
Well, first, I want to tell the board and the past board members, a big thank you for, having this position and worked on it. It's long overdue. It was just long overdue, but I am so happy that you guys are here, that we have somebody, and I've said this numerous times, and I'll repeat it, we have 15,000 stories to tell, plus all the employees, at every level, just everybody, and I'm happy that you're doing it. I'm very, very happy. Just something that I didn't hear, but I think you're going to have enough work, probably for other people too, to help you out. But I didn't hear anything from the gentleman before you on any successes in the Spanish-speaking community, and I didn't hear any of that. I saw all the slides and I saw that, but and I don't know, maybe they are where a percentage of people that speak Spanish, and what the plan is for them, and along with what we're doing here, what we're going to be doing on there. The population, it's 80% in our schools across the board, some even higher, and they're homeowners, they're people live here sending their kids to us, and I'm just wondering, if you have any idea of what the plan is for them. And I know you've been on it a short time, but has that been considered, and what's going to be happening with that?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. One of the first relationships that I reestablished when I got into this job was working with Adriana Frederick over at Univision, and making sure that she's aware of all of our news stories, all of the positive news stories that we got going on here. So she is my number one connection with Spanish media right now, and I'm confident in going forward that my relationship with her, with Univision, is going to be really fruitful in terms of the Spanish language media coverage. Now, in terms of messaging, there will need to be some capacity building there with you. I'm not going to lie, because my Spanish is not up to where it needs to be at this point. But in terms of, for instance, the campaign to reduce chronic absenteeism, my number one goal there is to make sure that all of that messaging is delivered in Spanish, because I know that is where it's going to have the biggest impact. And I know just from growing up here that if we're not reaching out to that community through that primary messaging, but also through social media messaging and through district website messaging, we are going to be missing out. And in looking at the mass notification systems that we're trying to, that we're going to be exploring a little further, hopefully at the end of this month, ensuring that the messaging capabilities there for translation are going to be abridged for native speakers, because we know that Google translators and other translators that are out there on the market right now, they don't necessarily speak Mexican Spanish, right?
I understand that, yeah.
Right? So we want to make sure that it's getting the right tone, not only just in just kind of static translation, but make sure that the messages that we're delivering is going to be delivered properly to these specific audiences. So thank you for asking that question.
And do the gentlemen behind you, do they have any successes that they've had in the Latino community that they can speak of? Do you have anything you could share with us as to what you've done successfully? And
sure. Well, really, communication strategies are always going to be reflective of the school district and the school district population. So those strategies, while they might not be specific to Spanish-speaking families, they're applicable. It's just about how do you connect with those families. So for example, if we're talking about mass notification, which he talked about, you're going to have to identify what are some of the parental engagement strategies that are going to be successful. It's that first part, it's the research. So in the years that I've done communication work, for example, in Southern California, we had high populations of Spanish-speaking families. We needed to make sure that not just our translators, and you mentioned that local language situation is incredibly important, because you can't expect that just because you left a voicemail in Spanish that you're going to engage those families. What we found is when we're trying to engage those families, we had to mitigate any barriers to their participation.
Absolutely.
So oftentimes that would be making sure there was a Spanish-speaking translator at events that are specific to those families. It's also about making sure sometimes something as simple as childcare might prevent some family members from being able to participate and show up and be involved. But I think it's critical that each district has to identify its stakeholder groups and come up with strategies to engage with that group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, sort of. I just wanted to hear if you had any success stories with the Spanish-speaking community with your firm, and I would love to hear just what you've done, successfully with that.
Yeah,
Let me step in. Obviously, in California, if I've worked with over 450 school districts, a good number of them have had majority populations that speak Spanish. One of the most important things is not just to translate stuff.
Agreed.
It's actually to be able to listen. And strategic listening, we do a lot of focus groups and we do a lot of audits of communication, which involve dialogue. And so it is a matter of having personnel and individuals who can translate to the non-Spanish speaker what they're hearing from the Spanish speakers. So we've had some success. We've dealt with everything from Delano to Taft to Merced to Stockton in areas where we've had to engage in that process of strategically listening in the native language. We've also been sensitive to the fact that when we think of narrative messages, in Delano, for example, we had to make sure that we were actually accurately translating on a very touchy personnel-related issue, that we were getting the right words into the audience. And that worked well. We put out that message and got very little pushback. And it was a tough one because it was involving personnel and kids and stuff I can't tell you about because it was with lawyers. But yeah, we've had success with it. I think what you have with Marcos is a sensitivity that he has a communication plan where his target audience, 80% of them won't be speaking English for the most part. They'll be working on it, parts of the family will, but he's going to have to make sure in delivering on these overarching goals and objectives that he's always looking at that through the language lens. And I think he's prepared for that. He has been in our master class an A student. We would consider him a high of class. This is like his defense of his dissertation in front of you. So I think he's very sensitive to his home roots and the needs. And I think that this plan is tailored enough to be able to do that for the 80% of your population that will be listening through those ears.
And I had just a follow-up question. There's Telemundo, obviously you mentioned Univision, and I don't know if Jorge can throw in any other TV stations. I think they're the two major ones, right? Telemundo and Univision? There you go. Teleazteca, okay. And then I know we also have the radio in the morning that I know the community just listens to, and I don't think, unless somebody can correct me, I don't think we've ever had anybody from our district in the Spanish-speaking radio, unless if you can guys correct me, anybody here, I'll stand corrected, but I don't think I've heard anybody. And I think, I don't know what's being done. I hope that market is being tapped, so that way, we can get the word on what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as Spanish radio, haven't had a whole lot of experience with any of the local radio, just because when I was the communications director over at the National Steinbeck Center, my dealings with radio directors, primarily they were sales pitches that they were trying to get me, and so they wanted you to pay for advertising time. So I've since I was at Steinbeck Center, since I was at Alisal Union School District, and now that I'm here, I haven't worked a whole lot with radio, just because there's usually some sort of a conversation about cost.
But they're an airway that's licensed by the feds that require you to do public service. And I know that, I've gotten some invitations in the past, it's been a long time, but I'm certain that they will do something, and especially with the size of our organization here. I mean, it would be nice to,
Well, I know that you've gotten in front of media a couple of times when we've been at events, so maybe that's something that me and you could work on as far as like being able to promote what the district has and offering yourself maybe as someone that can go on a local radio, or Jorge or Sandra or any of our board members here that speak Spanish, and I'd be more than happy to facilitate that. And I have good connections actually at KHDC Radio Bilingüe, and we could start there for sure. I mean, that's one of the, they have less bandwidth than, the major stations, but maybe that can give us some goals to set as far as who we want to reach out to and how we want to reach out to. I'd love to work with you on that.
and then I know that newspapers are, kind of on a downturn here, but, we have the local Spanish-speaking newspapers, even though they don't come out every single day, but even then, they're a resource that we can also tap, and I don't know, I hope that's on the plan here.
Well, I know that El Sol, which is distributed by the Californian, I know that what they primarily do is they'll take copy from the Californian and they'll just translate that. We're having really good working relationship with the Californian right now, and they're giving us fair coverage. So when I'm working with some of the reporters there, I'll make it a point going forward to say, hey, could this possibly be run in El Sol? I know that they pay it's a cost for them to have it translated. So that kind of is what determines the coverage that gets in El Sol. But definitely that's something moving forward that I will make note of and make sure that it's a priority for our messaging.
And then I've seen the Alisal School District in the paper a lot. And, I think, we're a pretty big organization. There should be no reason for us to be there, frequently, shining the light on the schools of what we're doing. And we don't, I'm looking at all the board members here because, I just hope that, you can support that to give Marcos the support for, putting more articles. I'm going to rip apart your time. I know that there's so many, the school district's so big and there's only one of you. But, I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy you're doing the work. I'm very happy, very, very happy. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rubio.
I think it's important, and that's an excellent sentiment. I think it's important to understand the communication plan isn't his job description. The communication plan isn't his, it's yours. And one of the things I think that's important is you've got lots of talented teachers who have stories to tell, and they could be your communication ambassadors better than having a spokesperson necessarily go on radio all the time. Let the inside of your schools come out for the public to see with the people that are delivering that service. You have administrators that are doing an excellent job. You've got staff that are doing a great job. You have, there are so many stories that are life-changing that you can present. And the best people to present them, the most poignant stories, come from the heart of the people delivering that service. And so to create an ambassador program where he knows who his go-to people are through principals, at sites, in departments, you might have the best person you could put on would be a bus driver. Because they have a story which is so powerful that it is memorable. And that's the kind of thing he'll be coordinating through this plan, our effort as a system, not just his effort to get it done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Ocampo?
Yeah, I'd just like to add something. Overall, it was a pretty well informed presentation. Thank you, Marcos. But one thing that I don't get to see within the list of items that you are providing us with is a list of community service that will help our parents, bilingual parents. I'm not talking about Spanish parents, bilingual parents in general, to get a hold of their needs when they need services. And for example, okay, I just have this one right here. And it says, ¿qué harías tú si supieras? What would you do if you know? Okay? And it's a booklet that I picked up in one of those trainings that I attended yesterday in Allison High School. It was called Resources Day. Okay? And there was a lot of nonprofit organizations on board, but the beauty of it that it was put together by the Mexican American teacher, Mexican American government teacher at Allison High School. I interviewed every kid that was sitting with their tutor representing the county, and especially this girl really caught my eye. Her name is Nayeli Gomez. She's a student at Allison High. She's graduated and she's been accepted to UC Davis. This girl is dynamite. This is the girl who started the dementia program at Allison High School. See, so when we're talking about finding people to interpret from English to Spanish, we do have that in our district, our students. You know, what can we do with them? We can do videotapes in regards to suicidal programs, in regards to, check out this one. I was not aware of this, okay? Taylor Farms, you know, Farm Taylor's Center for Learning, to offer the young people of Monterey County opportunities for a better future. Doing what? Okay? Staff like coding classes, mentoring support, homework assistance for free. I wasn't aware that the Taylor Farms are offering these services to our students. Okay? So this is what this is all about. Media is not just about focusing ourselves in one item, as like you mentioned, but it's extending, okay, the variety of service that we can share. And one of them, I will say, you know, start working with our stakeholders in our community, you know, like mental behavior services for the county of Salinas, Monterey, where my daughter is a therapist. And then also, another thing that I discovered that Monterey, students talking about nutrition. You know, what can we do to change, the nutrition in our families? Educate our parents. Carlos mentioned a while ago how reaching out to Radio Bilingüe. You know, who's the manager there? Magdalena Megallanes, a good friend of mine. So we have a lot of, you know, potential there to get our health up. And an example was when the SROs were rejected some time ago in our district. Why? People were saying, why? Well, nobody wanted to speak in public, okay? But the reason we didn't reject the proposal is that the MOU was not benefit at all for our district.
Right.
If it was sent back and modified, we would have worked with the SROs in campus. So it's not that we don't care for the SROs, just for peace of mind. So, you know, seeing all this, it makes me so happy because we were shooting for this for quite some time. And, you know, through, you know, the company that we are getting a hold of to help you out to address all these issues, I think this is the beginning of a heck of a good project. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Ocampo. So thank you again, Marcos, for the great presentation. It was awesome. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank Tom and Stephen as well. They've been wonderful mentors and tutors, so thank you, Tom, please.
Okay, we're moving on to district communications. We have employee organizations, CSEA. CSEA.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Reitmeyer. I'm an executive board member for CSEA Chapter 547. Recently, we began negotiations with the district. We are encouraged by the positive beginning. We hope that we can continue the dialogue in the spirit of teamwork. We ask for your support for the tentative agreement that we have put forth to you tonight. We also ask that you ascertain to Resolution 1982 Charter Reform. Thank you.
Thank you. SVFT.
A little bit of housekeeping. Members of the Federation, when I'm done, you're free to go get some sleep. It's been a long day. Once I'm done, but please stack your signs neatly on the counter in the reception area, and I'll let them hibernate until the next time we need them. We will need them again, that's for sure. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, just administration, some comments from the Federation tonight. I was asked earlier how I was doing. Well, as some of you know, I'm an individual with many hats, and in this meeting alone, I've had many hats. But here I am. And the Federation is not one person, we are many. Members of the Federation, please stand up. Wow.
And friends. We got your back.
Oh, they're ahead of me, I love it. Recently, in our most recent board meeting, we were advised that maybe we don't need to be as loud. Well, when we feel like we're not heard, we get loud. We made a good faith effort throughout this negotiation cycle, and we've given the district something it needed. And we spent 10 hours today, either at the table or in a caucus, negotiating in good faith effort, and we don't think we were heard, and we don't think what we did on the 25th of April was fully appreciated at all. So, we are going to go into summer, and we're going to start the next school year with all matters unresolved. You do not have a tentative agreement with us, and therefore, you will not have labor peace as we start another school year. Stand by from our own communications plan. Ours is pretty effective. Thank you. With that, we will make our way out of here, but not until we're heard. We are SV,
FT,
SV,
FT,
SV,
FT,
SV, 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 SV. See you in the fall. Thank you, everybody.
Board members, I have a comment I would like to share. Trustee Rubio.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Madul, for the presentation, and everybody that's here, so thank you for being here today. A couple of things, I attended the Salinas High Top 100, also at Everett Alvarez High School, and today I assisted there at Paz Middle School with Mr. Napoli's kids in doing mock interviews with them, and I've been doing this for a while, and he does wonders with the kids that are there. He's a special education teacher, and he just does wonders. I'm always amazed that he does what he does with the kids. So I'm putting in a little slip for him from a red folder here. And let me see here. I'm going to be turning in some slips here for all of you, because a lot of times we can't talk about anything because of the Brown Act, but I'll let all of you know here, and somebody supported it, and I hope I get your support on all of them. Small things, but I think they're important along with the communication. We've got a lot of events that happen in our school, and so what happens is we usually get them on that recap on the bottom sheet, and they're there, so you have to click on to the board docs, then you got to click on to the board members, then you got to click on to that sheet. So you're doing all these steps along, and I'm going to request that the district see if we can do the Google invites and put them on there. So it's emailed as an invite, because I'm not getting it as an invite. No, that's just it. Well, what I'm asking is if it can be done as an invite, and what you do as an invite, it becomes part of your calendar. So with one click, you can look at your calendar and take a look at the events happening. And it's a one-stop spot. And I'd like to see if you can examine it in doing that. I mean, I get them from my work. It's an invite. Yeah, I can be there. No, I can't be there. Or you put on your calendar and it's there. You got to pull up that sheet, print it out. Here, you got it with you all the time. It's just one less step. It's something to consider. And so I'm going to pass this along. The other thing is, what I'm going to ask for from all you board members, maybe a support on having a report on our absenteeism of the schools and their periods. And I think we have absenteeism that the count happens, I think, is it once a day or one class? Am I right? Does it?
I would just say training.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn it in. But you know what? I need to let them know at least. I need to let them know, because otherwise...
Well, we give you an ADA report annually with all the attendance for every school. So
Okay.
if you want something more to that report,
Okay.
then let us know and we'll add that to the report.
Well, I'd like to use this time to at least let the members know. That's all. I mean, I'd like to use my time for that, if you don't mind. So anyway, so I am turning in one of those. I'd also like to see if the possibility exists where we could study opening the libraries till 9 o'clock at our schools. Given the size of the population of our kids, the fact that right now there's only two libraries in the city, one with with Hartnell College, and I don't know what their policy is on lending books out. I'm sure it's good, but we have these libraries that sit closed. And, you know, I've seen kids over at Cesar Chavez in the morning waiting in line to get in, you know, to do their work. And we have all these resources here, and I realize it's money. I realize it's more staffing, but I also realize that we have centers that could be utilized for kids and at least give it an exam and take a look, you know, and see if it's feasible, and if we can do that. Rather than just having them closed and, you know, just having a couple city libraries here. And pass it along. The other thing is, I think there's probably at least one person here from the Federation that has made this comment, and I have to agree, and I think it's long overdue, is that, you know, I need your support also from each of you regarding either making this room bigger, getting AC going, doing something about the noise from outside. And it's just, you know, we have a lot of guests here. We have people outside, and this shouldn't be the case. We have buildings throughout our district that we can have a meeting in a more professional area. So it just, you know, I come here and I'm having to listen to the freeway next door, and then the AC or the air conditioning that just doesn't function. And so we open it to fix one thing, and it's a distraction. It's a distraction, and it's not fair to everybody here. And like I said, I know I'm looking at one person right now that has made that comment in the past. But, you know, I'd like to get, this is our meeting. This is our meeting, and, you know, I'd like to get your support in this, you know, from each one of you to see what we can do to, you know, have the superintendent work on this. So that way, we can have it. I'm embarrassed that people have to sit out. They're outside, you know, because sometimes this place is just full, and they're just outside, and they're not here, you know, as part of that. So I'll pass that along also.
You're overdue.
Thank you. And the last request, I have two of them, but this one, the last request is that the status of the rotation of the president, as requested by Trustee Cabrera. I think it was supposed to be on one of these agendas, and I think it's important that, I've been here long enough to see that the selection often gets log jammed. I don't know if that's the right word, you know, or kind word, but there are people here that would like to be in that position. And I think that, you know, we strive for fairness all the time with everything we do here. And I think it would be fair, you know, for people to do that instead of just, you know, having it become a logjam, people getting voted out or getting blocked or whatever. It's happened.
So Trustee Rubio, I will interrupt you at this time, because you're making an unfair comment. Trustee Cabrera is in the meeting with me at every agenda meeting. We do not purposely say we're not going to add that. And we will bring it, and then we could have a discussion, and you could share. This is not the time to share, because that's not on the agenda. If you want to put in requests, that's what we do. We put in the request, and you're asked, do you want it as information or agenda item? You mark it, and we will bring it back. And that's the process. Trustee Cabrera was at the last meeting, he asked, And he was told, and he said, okay. He could have said, no, I don't want it then, I want it now. He said, okay.
I understand, but this is still my time, is it not?
It is, but the time is for correspondence and committee reports. This is at the end of the meeting is when we submit these. So these are request forms for you to turn in when you want information or an agenda item.
Okay, I still want to exercise my time here. That's all. That's all I want to do. Because again, I just want at least to be heard, that's all.
I understand, but when you're making comments of something that it was an unfair process, I will
No, I
have
didn't say an
to
unfair
respond.
process. I didn't say an unfair, I never mentioned that, and it's not in here, and I'm not even gonna go there. All I'm making a comment is the other stuff was okay. I just made the comment that I just want to see his request to move forward, that's all. That's all, nothing more.
He's in the meeting to speak for himself also.
But that exact request, it's on for July.
Okay.
It's on the agenda.
Okay.
It was put in the recap for this week. It says that it was agendized for July, and that's
Okay.
when the discussion will take place.
Well, it's just, that's all it is. There's nothing else behind it. It's just a follow-up. That's it. There's nothing else.
Trustee DeBarra's request, and he was there, he asked, and he had an answer. So you're asking on his behalf?
I'm asking as a board member, yeah.
Yeah, so he could have shared with you, right? You were there, you asked, and you were told, and he said it was okay. And like we get a recap, and the recap, I get an email on my phone, I press the attachment, and I see the recap right there. I don't do a lot of clicks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members have anything else to share?
I'd just like to add something, Madam Chair. I think that just as we always give a little bit of extra time to individuals addressing the board, I think that we as a board members also feel the necessity of sometimes speaking our minds and being heard and being seen. Like Ceci Jones mentioned a while ago to the union teachers, we see you, we hear you, and we back you up, all right? It's not an easy transition that we're going through, but we are transparent with the money, and whatever is there that you guys deserve it because you work hard with our kids, we'll back it up. That's all I gotta say. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Ocampo. I will turn it over to the superintendent.
So just quick couple things. Appreciate those of you that attended the Top 100s. Those are great events, and great to see the students reaping the awards and rewards of all of their accomplishments. The Alvarez one is a little over the top, like you saw. So with the catwalk, 4 feet above the ground, makes us nervous, but it was an amazing event. So thank you for attending those events. And just a reminder, next week is a busy week with graduations and promotions. So if you have some special need for any of those events, let me know. If you don't remember what your assignments are, let me know. And we try to have one English and one Spanish board member at each of those so that you can, and sometimes it doesn't happen, but we like to have somebody be able to read the authorizations in English and Spanish at those events. So let me know if you don't know what your assignments are, and I'll have them sent out again.
Yeah, I would like to request someone, I'm going to be doing Alisal and Middle School. So I can do it in English or in Spanish. Last time I think you did in English and I did in Spanish.
Yeah, I'll send out the
So either
information.
one can go. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. That's it.
Okay, so we're moving on to individuals desiring to address the board. Mr. Superintendent?
So I have several tonight. 10 of them are regarding the resolution, pesticide resolution. So 10 times 3 minutes each is 30 minutes. So normally you would set aside 20 minutes for an item. So if I can ask our speakers to be concise with time, and then when we get to 20 minutes, I'll let President Padilla-Salzberg know.
Do we have somebody here on behalf of the pesticides that would like to speak on behalf of everybody, or does each and every one want to speak?
There's various members, and there's one, the coordinator of Safe Ag, Safe Schools.
Okay. So that means all of you, all 10?
I think some of them have left.
Oh, okay.
We have 3 now.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
So let me call the names then, and then if they've left, then. So first was Karen Cameron. Oscar Ramos. Sarait Martinez.
That's me.
So just a reminder for all speakers, you have 3 minutes to address the board, and the board will not address you back during this time. So thank you.
Great. So good evening, good night, everyone. My name is Saray Martinez. I am the organizer for Safe Act, Safe Schools. It's a local coalition for the works to protect our kids and their communities from pesticide exposure. We have members that are union leaders, teachers, community members, activists, you name it, retired nurses, retired teachers. And one of the things that we're doing, especially now, and the reason why I'm here is because I know you all have a resolution that you're voting this night. And I thank Trustee Rocha for bringing it to attention, but also all the trustees that I know have been in the fight against pesticides in the past. In this, even though this is a great step to start the conversation and collaborate, as an agriculture community in Salinas, we are exposed to pesticide drift from agriculture, and that is, I know, outside the jurisdiction of the board, but you can do something within your district jurisdiction, within your grounds. And I'm here again to support and to urge to vote and to move forward with this, the adoption of this resolution, because it's an excellent step and the first step to continue working together. But I do urge you, and I hope that you consider going a step above by, considering a ban in Roundup. As you can see, there's been a couple, and there's been in the news a lot. 2 cities in the region have suspended the use in city property, Watsonville and Greenfield. We also have school districts that have done it, Pajaro Unified School District, and also Salinas City Elementary did it last year. So I know that there's a lot of that momentum happening. We hope that you take this step. And again, we thank you for bringing it up to discussion, and we hope that, again, you support this resolution. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Anna Cabrera? She left?
No. Buenas noches. Thank you, board, for your time. I'm a member of Safe Act, Safe Schools, and I'm also a teacher in the Salinas Union High School District. And we've been fighting for 1 mile buffer zones around our schools. 2 years ago, the state was able to finally give us 1/4 of a mile, which is still not enough with drift. In 2005, I want to say, Humboldt State did a report where they showed a drift cloud coming over Everett Alvarez, sending a lot of people to the hospital. It's called Mapping a Menace. And in that article, it brought up a lot of issues, not only from me, but from my students in the AVID programs. And a lot of my students have been involved with Safe Act, Safe Schools, doing community service. They've advocated up in Sacramento. They've actually gone into the fields of medicine. They've worked with Chamaco studies. And this resolution that you're bringing before is very important to me as a teacher in our school district. You will be protecting not only my students, our staff, but as well as our community. You're taking a stand that goes a little bit further with notification, working with the Monterey County Ag Commissioner to provide proper reporting. If you go up to Santa Cruz, they have immediate reporting on when pesticides are used. I'm not sure who in the district has been trained to access the data, but Saraid has taught us how to access that data. The report for Everett Alvarez is a stapled stack of all these Prop 65 carcinogenic pesticides that are used throughout the year right across our school site. And if we can do stuff to protect our students from what we use locally on our campus, that would bring, more protections to our students. We see a rise in students with learning disabilities. The Chamaco study and the UC Berkeley study did case studies in our students that are currently 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds coming to our school district. And these students, through the Chamaco studies, which are based at Natividad Hospital, they're also members of Safe Ag, Safe Schools. And even though their information is private, these students are starting to talk about the issues because they know they're a part of this study. And so I really encourage the board to look at the actions that you'll be taking on that resolution, because it also talks about organic education and creating organic programs through our ag program. So let's be the leaders, let's be the innovators in developing programs where we start a new generation to find sustainable alternatives to growing our current agriculture. Let's, stop the use of brain harming herbicides that are being used in our facilities. We went around to different plant managers and data. We need to start gathering that data of what's being used. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a Carol here?
No, man, she left.
No, Carolyn, please. A different Carol?
I knew it wasn't me.
Okay. Dominic Dursa still here?
Dom, you might be on the outside. There he is.
Good evening, my name is Dominic Dursa. I'm here on behalf of myself. So 7 years ago when this meeting started, I'm sure I had better come on, see, it's been a long night. And that's why I'm just going to be really brief. I'm only here on two things. That number one, I'm really excited to see the possibility of live streaming brought to these proceedings, simply because few people have now 4 hours, 5 whatever hours we've been here to wait for items to come up, and certainly it's beneficial to people to be able to look back and just find that one specific item that they might be interested in to follow up on, and it's not always convenient to be here for multiple hours to find such thing. And also in terms of the resolution on pesticides, it's much needed. Certainly it's not only to be recognized about how different things in the community interact and how they can have an effect on things like childhood development, on educational needs, but certainly the need for collaboration, for there to be amongst different branches of government, whether they be a county ag commissioner and a school board, because certainly there are things that need to be talked about. And so I'll be brief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Joshua Ezekiel here? No. Christy Torano?
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this subject. I'm a member of SAS and a community member and a parent, and I've been doing advocacy with SAS now for a couple of years. And I want to urge you to vote yes on this resolution. I just have to say, as a child of an educator, and I got my father during the summer, I like being in this building. I feel like I've come home. But I was so impressed with the presentation. 7 out of 10 kids go to college in Salinas. I cannot believe that. That is amazing. And the special ed, back in the draconian days, no help for kids that had special needs. And we really need a good, strong department there, because the pesticides are dumbing down our kids. We can almost look at this as being environmental racism. I struck over here at Hartnell when we had the teachers, and the Salinas teachers were getting paid the least in the state of California. We have great schools, and there's been word about putting them in the middle of fields, but in Salinas, it's all in the middle of the fields. We got fields everywhere. But when 500 pounds of chlorpyrifos mean a 2.2 drop in educational and IQ, we have the Chumacos, we have the UC Davis, the UCLA study has just come out and said 40% of the ag commissioners are not looking for alternatives. Roundup has so many suits, they don't know what to do with. And Roundup, a simple step to take Roundup off the school grounds, because kids, they roll around. They don't just walk in straight lines, they're very active and they're part of their environment. So getting Roundup out of the schools, I think, to listen to the Greenfield mayor when he said, yes, it's going to cost us a little bit more money, But just like your teacher of the year said, it's all about the kids. So we have to think of the kids. These pesticides are very powerful and they're dangerous. Bush and Clinton did a bipartisan Clean Air and Water Act, said these 40 chemicals are detrimental to young children's developing bodies, and they were held up in court by, the EPA was held up in court by the chemical companies and the farmers. So as educators, people who take time with kids, we have to really look at the whole picture and communicate a system of warning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Bill Freeman still here?
Nope.
Wes, did you want to talk about live streaming?
Sure. We'll get back to it.
So Wes White.
Hi, Wes White, Salinas resident, community enthusiast at large. Talking about live streaming, you know, I've videoed a couple of meetings so far, and I'm really pleased to see it on the agenda. I hope it passes. And the sad thing with the that resolution, make sure you ban it, please. Ban use of Roundup, please. You know, Salinas City already did that. I'm surprised it's not more similar to that. And the teacher pay thing. Give them a fair contract, please.
So these are other topics. Michael Sosnowski.
Still evening, good morning. I'm here to speak on behalf of my client, Bill Beck & Sons, on your item, agenda item FF, the proposed construction change directive, deleting certain portions of the work from my client's contract and seeking credit for that work. My client has three principal objections to the issuance of that construction change directive. First, none of the items listed pose a fire, life, or safety issue. This work can be completed by my client. Just like it's completed this project, you can be proud of the facility that you have today because of their diligence. If any of the items listed in the proposed construction change directive posed a risk of harm to your students, to your staff, or to the public, the state's inspector of record who signed off on this project and who signed off on the enumerated items on the construction change directive would not have signed off on it. So inclusion of this work as to be done by someone else on an emergency basis is just not supported. There is no emergency that would warrant having someone else complete this project. The second objection my client has to the construction change directive is that it has never refused to do any of the work that's enumerated. In fact, some of the work that's listed, and it can be verified with your own staff, has been completed, or 2 is in the process of being completed, or 3 is only being delayed because the decision to complete the work rests with another agency. So for example, the lighting issue that exists, for which you're seeking a $22,000 credit, has nothing to do with my client. It has to do with the fact that the design originally was wrong, the light standards were too tall, they were too close proximity with the high voltage lines, and they had to be reordered. So we have new light standards that are being put in place, but they can't be energized. In other words, PG&E is not going to turn them on until the city has approved that work. So that's your responsibility, the district's responsibility, and its design team's responsibility. Any of these items that are listed, which can be verified with your staff, or even as we speak, today the work was being performed, it'll be performed tomorrow, and it'll be performed before this facility is going to be occupied by your students. And the final objection that my client has to the construction change directive is that the amounts, the credit amounts that the district is seeking bear no rational relationship to the value of the work that needs to be performed. My client's input on any of these items was not sought as to what values would be ascribed. The numbers were just arbitrarily arrived at. None of the subcontractors that my client approached would support the values that are sought.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
That was my, thank you.
Your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Williams, any students?
Good evening, board. Thank you so much for having us here. I wanted to address on January 1st, AB 1248 was a bill that was passed that prohibited districts from stopping students from wearing cultural regalia or items of cultural significance. And we wanted to make sure that some of our AVID students were heard, some of our Puente students were heard, which was really great, and we're thankful and grateful for that. But I have 3 students who are here with me to talk about their experience in the program and what the SOL represents to them. You can see what they have. These were students who were at the Top 100 ceremony at Alvarez just a week ago. And so I wanted to introduce them. This is Ivan Hernandez, and he's going to UC Davis. Just behind him is Ricky Juan, and he's going to Dartmouth University. And then Myra Hernandez is going to UCLA. These are all 4 5-year members of AVID, and I wanted them to have a chance to talk. So.
I go to a school that consists of 88% Hispanic Latino students, and 70% of which are socioeconomically disadvantaged students.
I am a first-generation student, and I am socially and economically disadvantaged, and I am a Hispanic Latino student. It is why I take pride in these programs and being part of the AVID culture, and we follow its mission. We are the culture of first-generation students who envision ourselves at a higher education institution. We are a culture that's thinking about advancement and not setback. We're a culture thinking about our futures and not our past. We are a culture that has held meeting after meeting to inform our parents about the college admission process, because they are also first generation of sending their kids to college. We are the culture that began encouraging our younger siblings to follow our footsteps. We are the culture that celebrates one another's success. We are the culture that is spreading awareness of opportunities into school-wide. This is not a disruption to my graduation ceremony. It does not mean I am more deserving than others, and it is not an award. This is a symbol of the journey that me and my AVID family have gone through these past 4 years, and that we've gone through together. And when we walk that stage, that's our finish line and the beginning of a new race that we're about to begin.
Great.
Hello. My name is Ricardo Juan, and I'm a campus resident. I'm here on the basis of culture, which has been defined as the achievements and community and celebrations of a particular group of people. I'm here because graduation is often a celebration of students, the community, and the city, and celebrating its youth who are graduating for the first time, many for the first time in their families, which is 88% of our population, and 5% who never graduate or set foot in a public high school. I'm here because my family, the AVID family, is here because for the past 4 years we have been in this together, not as individuals celebrating or competing. We've been here as a family and as a culture. Our achievement is not one, but it's many. We come because we are together. And I know things about the people in my class, in my AVID class, 96 people, each one I can name by their family name, by their nicknames. I know things about them that others do not, because that's what a family is. I know who goes home hungry on Thursday nights. I know who works 4 jobs. I know whose parents are suffering. I know who themselves are suffering, because we talk to each other and we celebrate together and we break bread together. Because we're not a program and we're not a school-affiliated secular group. We are a cultural heritage group. Even our stoles represent our symbol of our accomplishments. It's a poncho. Look at it. That's a cultural ethnic thing. And I find it a little bit offensive at graduation, which is our celebration. It's our bar mitzvah, it's our quinceañera, it's our thing that we've worked hard for years. not one, hundreds of kids. It's their celebration of their families. It's a culture of people who work hard, who come here to work hard, and they're not going to stop. And I find it a little bit absurd that we're not going to be able to wear something that symbolizes our culture. And that's not right. And it shouldn't be as big a thing as it is, but it is. I make that clear, because this is a family matter, and it's a cultural matter. Thank you.
Good night. Culture is beyond heritage. It is an accumulation of ideas, morals, and values that one carries to new communities and through life. As a member of AVID for 4 years and as president, we have created a student-wide culture where values of resilience, passion, and believing in something greater than ourselves are nurtured. This stole symbolizes more than being part of a program. It symbolizes being part of a community, a family. Being composed of predominantly first-generation students, AVID opens the gates to a better future. This stole is a reminder for myself and my AVID families that no adversity we face would ever diminish the value of our dreams. To myself and my AVID family, this is more than a stole. It is the definition of the AVID culture we have created in a world where Latino students face discrimination because of their culture. We can't advocate for a higher percentage of Latino students to attend college when we silence the student culture that supported many of us to do so. At graduation, our families and communities should be bestowed with the opportunity to see the proudness of the AVID culture. And with this, I ask that you see that this stole is more than a stole for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you.
Al Scott, still here?
Good evening. My name's Al Scott. My daughter is a freshman at Salinas High School. I appreciate the opportunity to talk briefly with the board tonight about the NGS science courses, since I wasn't able to attend the meeting in April where you actually addressed this on the agenda. My daughter has been in the NGS 1 course this year, and to be frank, it's been a huge disappointment for her and very frustrating. This course has not been well developed. The instructional materials are not mature. The teacher, while excellent, and I want to make it clear that this is not an issue with the teachers have been put into a position, an untenable position, having to teach subject matter that they are not experts in. So my daughter has become very frustrated. In addition, the course really rehashes a lot of material that was covered in middle school, really addresses at no greater depth than she had in middle school. So she comes home, frankly, dejected and bored. I've been told I had the opportunity to meet with Mrs. Duthman and Mr. Garcia, which I greatly appreciated, and had a really useful discussion with them, but I left also frustrated because it was clear that there was no other path for my daughter. Next year she will be required to take Next Generation Science 2, and if this trend is repeated, we can foresee that it will be more of the same for her. The bottom line is that we're going in a direction here where we're establishing common courses for all the students, and I understand that you have a large student population that you have to address, but without providing opportunities for kids to take, that are capable to take more advanced science courses, you're likely going to lose a lot of those kids. I see the same type trends. There's discussion of doing away with advanced language arts courses at Salinas High, and that goes in the same direction. And then with regard specifically to the science, I think most of you know that most of the top tier schools in their recommendations for science state that you should take biology, chemistry, and physics. So after 2 years of the NGS science, which covers a broad range of useful topics, but actually if you look at them, does not go into huge depth in chemistry or physics, then a student has faced the last 2 years to try to jam in those topics at a level which will prepare them for a top university. And I would propose that that's a very difficult thing for them to do. In addition, I was gratified that I saw in the minutes from the last meeting that addressed this, that the 2 NGS courses would prepare or would be good enough to allow students to enroll in AP courses. But I question how that could magically work. If you look at the course manuals for those courses, the current requirements, for example, for AP chemistry state that you have to take an intro level chemistry course before you can take AP chemistry. So how can you get to AP chemistry and be ready for AP chemistry with 2 courses in NGS science that are not thorough? I have a list of other recommendations, unfortunately out of time, but I would implore you to take another look at this, be more deliberate in your implementation of these courses, and look at making sure that you can challenge the freshman and sophomore students and make sure that they're prepared for the junior, senior level AP courses.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we'll have Carolyn Cleaves and Nicole Jefferson together.
I'm already up here. I made it. I know. Good evening to the board. It's still evening. And to the cabinet and our district leaders. In the perfect opportunity of the venue of celebrations for our Teachers of the Year and going forward with our acknowledgement of our social media, Nicole and I are here to also, oh, we didn't say who we are, but you already know who we are. Anyway, we are here to celebrate one more accomplishment. Back on April 26th, Nicole, myself, and Will Terrell met, and we were diligent in our pursuit that we shared that with you that we were going to do in pursuing our A to G for health science. And we had the support of Dolores Christensen, who gave us the momentum, what we needed to do, and we tackled that task that whole day long. We sent off a draft to her the following Monday, May 6th. Dolores came back with some questions, some proposals that she thought we might need to tweak. Nicole and I spent Monday afternoon, 3 more hours, sent it back to Dolores that afternoon at 7 o'clock that evening. Dolores came back with one more question the next day, and then she delved into what we drafted on May 9th, sent it off, and at May 10th, we all received an email at 11:23, and I could not contain myself. I was in 4th period. I know Nicole couldn't. We got our A to G for health education, and we are over the top, over the top. And we did not have to do any rewriting, any resubmissions, and I know I'm speaking for Nicole and all of us, but we think, and we know we've shared with you the excitement and the volume of what we do with our classes, and just throwing it back out there. We hope you revisit, because we wrote it for a full year, which is what we are currently in. And the good news is that our students for 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and of course 2019 and 20 will also receive the A to G credit. So, perfect timing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Julie Hoffling, still here?
Normally I'd be in my pajamas right now, and you probably would be too. And this is somewhat sort of spontaneous carpe diem, and I thought, today's the only day that you know who I am. So I thought, hey, I'll take my 3 minutes. I came to the school a year and a half ago. As you know, I was teaching at a private school where my children, one of them still goes there, and received a call, help, we have no French teacher. The French teacher was gone after 3 weeks, and it took a while, the whole process to go through and have an interview and all of that, and with the paperwork with HR and all that. So I stepped out of my position. I had somebody to step in for me, so I didn't leave my own students hanging, and came on board with Salinas Union, and I love my students. I love being here, and it's been fantastic. I had a fantastic trip with 9 of my own students, 3 from North and 2 from Alisal, to take them to France for 2 weeks. 1 week in Paris and 1 week to stay with their pen pals and go to high school, and it was an amazing experience. So at the end of last school year, at the beginning of this current school year, I got a little email that's just basically stated, you know, I finished my master's over the summer, so I moved over a column, but I stayed at the same step. And I was confused. I thought, oh, they just must not realize that I've moved a step because I have another year under my belt now. But what I found out was that because of a certain ed code, that because I'd only taught at the school district for 1 semester, that I wasn't going to get credit for teaching for the whole year. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange and not really logical, because I worked 100% of the year and came because you needed me. Okay, I'll come help you. So I thought that was a bit of a penalty. Like, thanks for coming to help us, but we're not going to give you credit for teaching this year. So I ended up getting a chance when I came to interview for the Teacher of the Year. Got a little interview with Mr. Francisco, and said, so what's the deal? What is this ed code? And he showed it to me, and I looked at it and I read it, and I thought, okay, this wouldn't apply. This doesn't make sense to apply it to somebody like me who's worked the whole year. If I were at home eating bonbons and watching as the world turns, definitely this ed code would apply to me. So anyway, I wanted to, I forgot to return my contract, so I think it's due by tomorrow, so here you go. But anyway, I hope the ed code can change or be applied to the right situation, because I lost a year of teaching because I came to help. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will turn it over to the Vice President, Mr. Philip Cabrera. I will recuse myself from the next item, and at this time, I'm going to excuse myself completely from the meeting. Thank you and have a good night.
Okay, I would like to call the public meeting to order. The board will hold a public hearing to receive.
Can you use a microphone, please?
Huh?
Microphone.
Oh. I was just gonna use my phone. Public hearing to receive. Is it on? Okay, are you okay now?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, public hearing to receive input on AB 1200 / public disclosure of collective bargaining agreement for CSEA. Do we hear any input, any comments?
So move for adoption.
I was gonna close the public hearing and move into action. Number 8, resolution number 19-77, ratification of payment for Trustee Carlos Rubio. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Ocampo, second by Trustee Jones. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Number B, resolution number 19-51, fair and full funding. Do we need to hear anything? Okay. Moved by trustee Rocha, seconded by trustee Sazi Jones. Do I have any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good, thank you very much. Number C, AB 1200, excuse me, 1200- public disclosure of collective bargaining agreement with CSEA. Any questions or concerns? Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Moved by trustee Rocha, seconded by trustee Ocampo. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good, motion passes. Thank you very much. Number, huh?
No, I said aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't give me messed up.
Sorry.
E.
Sorry.
Kind of late. We haven't had a meeting like this that has gone this late for years. Okay?
Sorry, but let's keep going.
So, E, salary agreement with confidential supervisory, excuse me.
Can we go back to D and take action on D first?
Oh, okay, thank you very much. D, California School Employees Association tentative agreement. Any moved by trustee?
Second.
Trustee Jones, seconded by trustee Ocampo. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now, E, salary agreement with confidential supervisory, God darn it, so I'm sorry, I cussed. Supervisory employees,
So moved.
moved by trustee Ocampo, seconded by trustee Rocha. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay, very good. Motion passes. Now, information. First reading of board policy number 1113, district and school websites. Any questions or concerns? None. Okay. Number B. First reading of board policy 5117, interdistrict attendance. Questions or concerns? Very good. We'll move on to C. First reading of board policy number 5145.3, non-discrimination/harassment. Questions or concerns? We all know what discrimination and harassment is. Very good. We'll move to D. Resolution 1982, charter reform. Questions or concerns? None? Okay. We'll move to E. Live streaming board meetings.
So I just wanted to add, so we got a quote. I wanted you to be aware of the quote. It's about $8,000 to equip the building for the live streaming equipment. So the next step is just to get direction from you for us to move forward and get somebody to come in and review all of our aesthetics and talk about how to get that piece going for us. So we good with that? Yeah. It's in a trustee.
What's to say?
I do whenever you're done. No, keep going, keep going. When you're
What's
done.
to say that in the next 4 or 5 years, we get to move? We can move into another building or rehab this building or do something different. Is that equipment, can we use that equipment or is it going to be outdated for a couple of years?
It'll probably be outdated in about 3 months, but yes, we can move it wherever we go.
Okay.
So if we move to another location, you have to record your meeting. That's the most important piece of that aspect.
Okay.
Moving the live streaming with it, we just have to go through and get a labor cost to move all of that.
Okay.
But that would be, a vision I think that we need to discuss.
Yeah.
I think there's some other priorities first, but then we can discuss it at a later date of looking for another location for a full district office that is larger size than this. So, and we'll talk about that at a later date.
I had a comment, unless I missed it, there's no attached or nothing, it was just a line there. And so my only comment is, in practice, I'd like to see it done, but I would like to have some more details, that's all, just to, ongoing maintenance, just a whole host of stuff like we normally do.
So the quote is $4,600 for the equipment, $2,600 to install.
To install.
And the equipment is pan to zoom cameras that they attach to our network and live stream through our website.
Okay.
And are we okay to continue discussing this? Is that?
Or do we need to
It's a
move it
discussion
forward
item.
for
Okay,
action?
all right.
I'll bring it back next time for action, and you'll have that detail in the action item. I just want to make sure that you all want to move forward with live streaming your meeting.
Do we have consensus from the rest of the board regarding moving it forward?
Yeah, and I don't want to take this into the weeds now, but yeah, I would like to do more like, who's going to operate the camera and where's it going to be fed and just a lot of technical stuff. It's public information, I get all that, but, and then, yeah, I'd like to just know a little bit more technical information and then ongoing costs, if that's going to happen as, later on, or I don't know if there's going to be.
We'll bring that during the action part.
Right, I mean, that's all, yeah, I just want more information than just saying, tentatively, it sounds good to me. I mean.
I just want to know you guys want to go forward.
No, yeah.
So if you want to go forward, I'll bring you all the
Moving forward to
detail.
action for the next meeting?
Yes, I'll bring it for
Okay,
action.
good. Number G. Wait, no, hold on. Where am I at here? Dang it, you messed me all up, Carlos. F, 2019-20 performance-based budget. Questions or concerns?
May I just speak about that item? Or just a bit, I'll be really quick. I know you're all tired, but I just want to bring a few things to your attention. So this is so we use performance-based budget to develop our budget for next school year. And normally what we do is we take the general unrestricted budget and we break it up into 23 packages, right? We have different administrators reviewing those packages. They normally present a 90, 95, and 100% package. This year we had 2 administrators that submitted a package for 95%. All the others were at 100%. So with the efforts of the committee, we discussed during the presentations, we realized that there was potential savings that we can take for some of the packages, and it wasn't a full 5 or 10%. So what we did is we took it an extra step. So with the commitment of the committee and myself and then Grisela reviewing the information that was provided, we took input from the committee, so they went through every package, and there were potential savings. So I just wanted to report out that we had 7 or 6 packages that we were able to make reductions to, and that's a savings in the general fund of $537,000. So when we developed the budget in 1920, if you don't have any problems or any questions with that, that's what will be coming to you in February 1st for approval for the first, in January and June. I'm tired too. So I'll bring it for review at the first June meeting and then for approval at the second June meeting. Okay, so that will be coming before you next month. And with that, I do want to thank the committee. For their efforts, their financial responsibility, and then taking it an extra step this year. That was, that shows a lot of commitment from the representatives that we do have. So I do want to acknowledge and thank our CSEA representative and assistant chaplain this year. Our confidential supervisory was Jessica Barbosa. Our SVFT rep was Katie Bassler. Our high school administrator was Anthony Hinton, and middle school administrator was Kimberly McCulloch.
I have a quick question. Did that also include a budget reduction to the board?
Yes, it did. So not for the board, I'm sorry. So your board's packet was not reduced.
Thank you.
I raised you 100%.
Huh? We got 100%?
I gave you 100%.
How about the superintendent?
No, I cut his office.
Good. All right. Okay. Can I move forward?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number G. Resolution 1980, agricultural pesticides. Questions or concerns? Yes, sir.
It's a great resolution, finally. I think I put in a request in February and we're going back and forth to find about it. I put the request back in February and finally, after working with Superintendent Anna, we finally got it. And thank you to Saraid and Ana Barrera who met with me to work on this. I really like it, however, I'd like it to have a little bit more teeth. And so in one of the last further resolve, it says the Salinas Union High School District shall examine its own practices regarding the use of toxic chemicals on school grounds and will seek to reduce or discontinue the use of such harmful chemicals. I'd like to propose that we change it to be it further resolved that the Salinas Union High School District shall examine its own practices regarding the use of toxic chemicals on school grounds by discontinuing the use of all Prop 65 chemicals in district grounds and directing staff to work on an integrated pest management policy to establish non-toxic alternatives.
Send that to me in a request.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have anything to say, sir?
This is for Trustee Rocha. First, thank you for doing that. And thank you very much, because I think it's, it's needed where we live, where we work, and where our kids are at. What I was going to ask you, and this is just, again, if I go too much into the weeds, let me know and I'll stop, okay?
I will.
But what I want to know is would it be possible for you, seeing, you've got a lot of energy into this, to maybe get some of our state legislators here, maybe to do a presentation, where you reach out to them and maybe have them come in and, and let us know what they're doing at that level, or even, I don't know, who would take care of us at a federal level, but to come in and tell us what they're doing, or maybe the ag commissioner, people such as that, where you could reach out to them, on behalf of us, to just address this and see what goes on.
Well, we have Safe Schools who's working on it, and we could probably present on what's going on since they are knowledgeable.
So, and you want to direct that to me?
Well, yeah, I understand. I'm asking you also, he did a lot of work into this. I understand that, but I'm just asking him, if if that's something, I mean, you're out there doing all this work. Yeah.
I have a question, more of a comment and then a question. The comment is that several years ago, our board, we passed a resolution for the protesting the use of methyl bromide, which is a pesticide or a fumigant that's used for strawberries, because many of the strawberry fields are located near our schools, and it also contributes to the drift that you were talking about. And so in order to do that, when I submitted it, I went online and looked at a lot of different resolutions from a lot of other districts that I knew of at the time, and that might be a good way to sit down, because I'm not sure what I don't remember seeing anything about the elimination of. Well, we need to say specifically to eliminate the use of Roundup.
Well, we don't actually have to use it.
Well, if we do use it,
It would be under what you said.
It would be including Prop 65 and Roundup and all.
yeah, whatever the list says, but I totally agree that we need to do it. And does anybody want to say?
I'd just like to add to it that that's a great opportunity to bring it back as a resolution, but also changing the language, and I think we can invite our assembly member, which is Robert Rivas, to come and do a presentation in regards to the pesticides or whatever they're using, just to get a feedback and adopt the resolution.
Any more? So we're going to see this move forward?
For discussion.
Very good. Consent. Do I hear a motion for consent? Moved by Trustee Rubio, seconded by Trustee Ocampo. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed? Better not be. Okay. What else? What else we got here? Future agenda items. We already heard some. I have two issues to bring forward as well. I think Patty does also. Future board meetings. We have a meeting coming up at the end of the month. The 28th of May, and another June the 11th. Next week we have our first promotion at all together. Hopefully we'll all be there for Mount Toro. And we also have graduations on Thursday and promotions on Wednesday. So, adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Trustee. Second by Trustee Lucia. All in favor, say aye. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
You guys get paid by the hour?